Also, we're just missing Mark, Uni, and Sid. And then we can get started.
I'm on.
I see Sid, sorry. So I think we're just missing Mark and Uni. Sorry, I have to scroll through all my pictures. And and Jeff also. Right. Oh, I see Jeff.
I'm here.
Perfect. So I think the only person we're missing right now is me. Yeah. And then we can get started. Sure. Oh, are you here too, Uni? Do we take roll call again? Or are we good? Shara? Do we need to take roll call, or we can just go ahead and get started again? All right. So if we can go
Pardon
ahead.
me, Dr. Wong.
Uh-huh.
As long as you have a quorum, then you don't need to. I just want to make sure you have a quorum.
Sorry, Rebecca. I was trying to unmute myself to say the same thing. I'm like, I counted, so I know you've got quorum.
Oh, I see. And then, of course, with petitions, you want to make sure everybody who's going to be deciding is here to hear the petition itself. So,
all right. Well, I'm scrolling and I'm counting, and it looks like we have our quorum back, and it looks like everyone's back. So let's go ahead and get started then. Okay. I just lost my piece of paper. So now we are in open session, and
wait. I'm the reporter that got assigned to this. I was told this was an OAH hearing against somebody that is an optometry, that this is the optometry board. I have no idea what this is, and it looks like you guys have almost 40 people in here. What is this?
Okay, so we're going to go to closed session, which is why I believe we need you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am the ALJ from OAH. I'm not sure if you can see me or not.
I can.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with using WebEx, so I'm not able to see myself. But the court reporter, could you tell me who you are?
I'm Lisa Schurmeister.
Okay. Hi, Lisa. Okay, let
Hi.
me just explain what this procedure is. This is an OAH hearing. What this is we're sitting with the Board of Optometry, and I am the ALJ. I will be conducting the hearing, and then you will be transcribing everything that occurs during the hearing, and then the board will conclude the hearing, and then I will get your information, such as the page estimate and the end time, and then you're done for the day. We will go into closed session with the board, and then the board will deliberate, and then I will write a proposed decision. So this is a little bit more unusual than what we normally do, where we just have the ALJ, the attorneys, et cetera.
Right, and the respondent.
Right, but in this case, we are sitting with the full board. Is there anything that you would need from us to make your job easier?
Well, first of all, there's almost 40 of you. Your picture disappeared, so it was up and now it's gone. I don't know who these people are, and if everybody starts talking, I'm not going to have a clue who you guys are.
Okay.
And I mean, I have.
Can I, pardon me, I don't mean to interrupt, but in the interest of time, this is Board Counsel Rebecca Bond. I want to clarify, it might seem overwhelming because of the number of attendees.
Yeah.
But for our purposes, likely speakers are going to be about a handful of folks. You're going to have your petitioners one at a time. You're going to have your ALJ who was just advising you of some of the procedures, and you're going to have the board members. And that's pretty much the only people you're going to generally expect to speak during this proceeding.
Okay, and also just to make you feel better, so what we'll do is we will have, when we're at the hearing, most likely it's just going to be me, and I will give you my name. I'm going to have the Deputy Attorney General also give you his or her name beforehand, and also the petitioner. There's going to be a round of questions from the board, but what I'm going to do is before each board member speaks, if you could just identify yourself
That would,
for the record, and then spell out your name for the record. I think that's going to make the court reporter's job a lot easier, because typically she is only dealing with 4 to 5 people in a courtroom at the very most. So.
not only that, I mean, I have this big white box that says number 10, petitions for early termination of probation, and it has two people's names. I assume they are optometry people. And then on the right-hand side is a list of 39 participants. And then there's only one person that I see right now that has their picture up, and Miss Bond, it just says board counsel, and there's nothing, it just has your name. And then Miss Zhang, that it just has a name. And so I'm not going to see who's speaking because it's not showing that in this big white box that takes up pretty much most of the screen. And so I have like no idea. I don't, I don't know. I mean, I've been a reporter for many, many years, almost 30 years in Superior Court for LA, and I've never seen anything quite like this. So.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Lisa, if you have not been through a board petition like this.
No.
This is a this is an agency board petition hearing, and while it doesn't occur very often on the OAH calendar, it is rather routine. If you can bear with us, we'll make the best we can out of it.
Thank you.
Again, what we'll do, let me first of all give you the spelling of my name. It's J-I-Lan, and last name is Z as in zebra, A-N-G. I am the ALJ who's going to be conducting the hearing, and the Deputy Attorney General, it looks like it's Mr. King. Go ahead and identify yourself, please.
Judge Zhang, before you continue, I think there's some technical difficulties going on because I can see all the board members. I cannot see you. So perhaps there's a technical problem on the court reporter's side, and maybe on your side, because I cannot see the judge either.
I'm actually having the same problem. I see some participants, but I don't see everyone. I'm not sure how to fix it. I logged in about 10 minutes early to make sure that I've never used WebEx before, but I logged in about 10 minutes early to make sure that it was working. But it does seem like someone was able to see me. I'm not unable to see myself.
So this is Dr. Wong. I don't know if you guys, if you take your cursor and you kind of roll it over a picture or the list of names on the right-hand side, you should actually see arrows. So on my screen, I only see about 4 people at a time, but if you scroll through, then you can actually find all the other participants, or at least all the other board members, because we all have our cameras on. So for me right now, when I'm looking at my screen, I only see Mark Mordomi, and then I see you, Judge Zhang, and I see Lisa's name, and I see board counsel's name. To let Lisa know, whenever anyone's speaking on these boxes that have people's names on it, usually there's a blue outline. So whoever's speaking, the box gets outlined in a royal blue color. So if it's
it lights up, the perimeter of it lights up. That's what it's doing right now for you. My only issue, I mean, that's fine for like what it is right now, but my only issue is then what happens if one of these other 38 people that's on the right-hand side begins to speak? I have no idea who it is because I'm only seeing, I don't know how many there are, maybe 10 names because there's so many of you. So that's all I can see. I don't know why my video, camera didn't show up, but whatever.
Lisa, I'm having the same problem, so don't worry about it. Again,
Okay.
I think what we'll do throughout most of the portion of the hearing, it is going to be me, the ALJ, the DAG, the Deputy Attorney General, and then the petitioner. There will be some questioning by the board, but again, whenever I'm requesting for the board, whenever you are going to ask a question, please identify yourself for the record first and then spell out your name. This is to make the record clear and also to assist the court reporter, because under these circumstances, it is much more difficult for her to perform her job.
And I apologize. This is Judge Jamie Teagle-Burgos, and I'll be presiding over the Dawson petition. And so I was having technical difficulties myself right now, and I was trying to raise my hand, but somebody let me in and unmuted me. I appreciate it. I'm here, and I know Judge Zhang, you will be handling the other petition, correct?
That's correct. So we have, to make the matters a little more complicated, but perhaps not too much so, there are 2 judges assigned for this particular board petition. I will be handling the Hoft matter.
Okay.
After the Hoft matter, I think what I will do is I can either, are we designating a time for the closed session?
I probably best to do, well, I don't know, it's up to the board if they want to do closed session for both petitions at the same time. They'll have to, that's up to them, or if they want to do a separate closed session for each petition.
I think if I might suggest, Madam Chair or Madam President, because we do have that other item of business, we'd want to go through both of these hearings, finish up our item of business, and then adjourn into closed session where both matters before you in public hearing can be discussed and determined.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, then what I will do is I will simply sit through the second petition. I will mute myself and then just make sure that I'm still available online. So whenever you finish with the second petition, we can immediately start the closed session.
That's fine, and I'll mute myself for the first petition. I'll do that now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, does that work for everyone? Okay, so with that said, I think Mr. King, could you please identify yourself and then let the court reporter know your identity?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Can everyone hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, good afternoon. This is Deputy Attorney General Matthew A. King, and I'll be appearing on behalf of the Attorney General in the petition for the reduction of penalty or early termination of probation of Wayne Whitmer Hoft, H-O-E-F-T. My bar number is 265691.
Okay, and Mr. Hoft, can you also identify yourself? And Mr. Hoft, I see you're one of the participants.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Could you also provide your name and spelling for the court reporter so that she can be familiar with your voice?
Wayne Whitmer Hoft, W-A-Y-N-E, W-H-I-T-M-E-R, H-O-E-F-T.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to have you identify yourself again once we're on the record. This is just so that the court reporter can be familiar with your name.
Correct.
So Lisa, just to make sure, I have your CSR number as 7277. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, at the end of the hearing, I will get the end time and the page estimate from you. Okay. If everyone's ready, we can go on the record.
Judge, is Mr. Hoft appearing only audioly, or is there a video also of him?
I don't see a video of him, but I'm not sure if that's a technical problem on my end. Mr. Hoft, could you let us know how you're appearing?
There, we're doing good. I see myself.
Okay, I have a visual view now.
Yeah, I see him now also.
Okay, great.
Your Honor, this is Matthew King. May I ask that whoever's screen sharing, if we could take off the screen sharing so that we can occupy that space with whoever's speaking? Is that possible?
Yes, it looks like there's a screen share of looks like a slideshow.
Yes, we'll have our moderator work on that right now. Thank you for your patience.
Just to let everybody know, if you go to the top of all the names, there's there's like presentation mode of speakers. And if you click on it, because right now it looks like you can either do screen with pictures across the top. If you keep clicking, you can get to one where it looks like it's three squares on top of each other. And if you expand your screen, you can actually see everybody that's in the meeting. Well, it's 2 screens worth, but right now I have 20 people on my screen.
Okay, that would be great for me. How do you, where is it, where it says layout?
Layout, exactly. So if you click on layout, then if
Okay,
you
I see stack.
so
Is that
stack,
what you said?
there's one that looks like 6 squares. It's 3 squares on top of each other.
Stay there.
I've got, my options are stack, side by side, full screen view, show participant without video.
Click on
Show
full,
name.
click on full screen view, and then you go back up to viewing options again. At this point, you should see something that looks like it's 6 squares, 3 on top of 3.
No, it just made it bigger, but it doesn't show.
I can log in again. I don't know how
I think for the purpose of time, perhaps we can just try the best we can with this.
Okay.
Again, what I'm going to do is ask each board member who's going to be asking a question, please identify yourself for the record, and then may ask your question. Okay, so Lisa, are you ready?
Yeah, yeah.
If you have trouble, just you can interrupt us and we can.
Oh, okay,
do our
I
best to-
appreciate that. I appreciate that. I, you know, lots of times people don't like to be interrupted, but I think with this, it's probably going to happen. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And we do appreciate your presence here and your assistance with us. Okay,
Thank you.
so if everyone is ready, we can go on the record. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for reduction of penalty or early termination of probation filed by Dr. Wayne Whitmer Hoft. Agency case number is 420-2016-000-666. OAH case number is 2021-08-0045. Today is August 27th, 2021. My name is Jalan Zhang. I am the Administrative Law Judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings, assigned to sit with the Optometry Board, which is convened here today to consider the petition. Counsel, may I have your appearance for the record? Let's start with the Attorney General's office.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Deputy Attorney General Matthew King appearing for the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. Dr. Hoft, I believe you're appearing in pro per today. Is that correct?
Say that again, please.
Do you have an attorney representing you today, or are you representing yourself today?
No attorney.
Okay, so if you can please state your full name for the record, please, and then spell out your last name, please.
Wayne Whitmer Hoft, Hoeft.
Thank you very much. Since you are representing yourself today, what I'm going to do is explain the procedure that we will be following. So this is a petition for early termination of probation filed by you. And so the burden of proof is on you to establish that you are entitled to early termination. What will happen is that the Deputy Attorney General, Mr. King, will first offer some jurisdictional documents, which include your petition and any documents that you submitted in support of the petition. And he will outline the background of your case. You may then make your own presentation to the board. If you have any additional documents that were not already provided to the board and included in the package submitted by the Deputy AG, you may offer them into evidence. You may testify on your own behalf. You may also call witnesses who may testify for you. Members of the board and the Deputy AG may have some questions for you at the end of your presentation. And if you have any witnesses, they may also have questions for the witness. You have the right to raise legal objections to any questions posed to you or your witnesses. To do so, you must state a legal basis to your objection, and I will make the ruling on that particular objection. After all the petitions have been heard, and we will have 2 petitions today, the board will meet in closed session for deliberations. The board's decision will not be announced today. Written decision will be mailed to you as soon as possible, probably within a couple of weeks. So do you have any questions about the procedure for today's hearing?
No, you're perfectly clear.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any documents that you did not provide to the board previously that you would like to submit now? Mr. Hoft? Mr. Hoft?
It looks like he just lost internet.
Okay, so we'll go off the record. Hopefully he'll be able to come back. Is there a way to give him a call to have him participate in the conference by telephone if he's having trouble with internet connection?
Sure. Do we have a way to get in touch with him?
Okay, who's that just spoke?
Oh, this is Dr. Wong, Lillian Wong, and I was just asking Shara, our EO, if we have a way to get in touch with him via phone.
Yes, we'll ask staff to try and get in touch with him to try and get him reconnected. Give us a moment.
Are we back?
Oh, Mr. Hoft, I'm glad that you're back.
Yes,
It
thank
appears
you.
that you were cut off. Okay. And I had directed someone else to try to contact you by telephone, but I'm glad that you're
Right,
able to
right.
reconnect. Okay, so Mr. Hoft is back. Let's get back on the record. Okay, so we're back on the record. Mr. Hoft, you're joining us by video conference and I'm able to see you, but because you're joining us we're doing the hearing by virtual format, just as a admonition, please do not have someone else in the room with you. Please do not have assistance either by text, phone, or any other means in terms of your testimony. If you are testifying, you must do so from memory. If you need to make reference to a particular document to refresh your memory, please identify the document for the record and the page number that you're referring to. So this is just a general guideline. In addition, we do have a court reporter here present with us. So make sure to speak audibly, slowly, so that she can catch up. If you are using some unusual spellings, or if you are using a name of a person that's of unusual spelling, please spell it out for the record. Again, that's going to assist our court reporter for today.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I have written my petition as to why I want to do the early termination. So when the time comes, will I be able to read that?
So what will happen is that Mr. King already have those documents, and those are going to be the jurisdictional documents, and he will, again, outline those documents, outline your case, and then most likely put them into evidence. If you need to
My
make
question is,
reference,
can I give a statement?
yes, absolutely. As I said, once he is completed with his outline and summary of your case, you are allowed to give your testimony. I will swear you in. You can provide your testimony. But again, please testify from memory. If you need to make reference to the petition, make sure you are referencing certain pages of that petition so that we can identify it for the record. Is that more clear, or do you need
Right,
more
thank
guidance?
you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. And any time during the hearing, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
So with that, Mr. King.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ordinarily, before I move to identify and then mark and admit the petition contents, I just want to clarify the role that I have now. Ordinarily, when I appear before the Office of Administrative Hearings, I do so as attorney for the executive officer of the board in what are essentially adversarial proceedings. But I want to clarify that's not my role today. My role is not adversarial. It's intended to protect the public. And I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding and ensure that the panel has sufficient information with which to make a decision on the petition. So with that clarification, I'd like to, with Your Honor's permission, move to identify and move into evidence the petition contents.
You may do so.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to mark, I'm going to move all of these in as marked as Exhibit 1. Within Exhibit 1, we have the decision and order in case number CC 2014-370. That decision was effective March 22nd of 2018, and that decision was ordered February 20th, 2018. Next, I have a petition for reduction of penalty or early termination of probation. This is dated June 30th of 2021. Within Exhibit 1, we have a notice of today's hearing, a license certification, due dates table showing completion of certain probation requirements to date. There is an optometrist license renewal notice, and on it, handwritten words, done, D-O-N-E, 12-17-18. There are a number of letters. I will identify each one of those. Before I get into the letters, I want to identify there is an excerpt from Rehabilitation of the Visually Impaired. This is a book edited by Frank, F-R-A-N-K, W is the middle initial, DiChiara, D-I-C-H-I-A-R-A. This was published May 7th, 2021 by Page Publishing Incorporated, and includes an article entitled Low Vision Through the Eyes of the Patient by Dr. Wayne Hoft. There's also a, now I'll get into the letters. There's a testimonial information, that's what it's called, from Alan Alpert, A-L-A-N-A-L-P-E-R-T. This is undated. There's also a letter which is substantially the same as the testimonial, also from Alan Alpert, and also undated. There's a letter from Dr. Alan Berg, A-L-A-N-B-E-R-G. That's dated October 15th, 2017. And Madam Court Reporter, if I'm ever going too fast, please interject and stop me.
You're doing great.
Okay. So we also have a letter from Apollonio, A-P-O-L-O-N-I-O, Jacobo, J-A-C-O-B-O. That's an undated letter. There's a letter from Dr. Beth, common spelling, B-E-T-H, Omansky, O-M-A-N-S-K-Y, also undated. There's a letter from Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Topolovich, T-O-P-O-L-O-V-I-C-H. That's dated October 17th, 2017. Next, I have a letter from Dr. Bruce, B-R-U-C-E-P, middle initial, Rosenthal, R-O-S-E-N-T-H-A-L. Next in order is a letter from Richard, Richard, middle initial E, Feinbloom, Feinbloom. That's dated October 17th, 2017. Next is a letter from Frank Vasquez, Frank Vasquez, that's undated. The next letter is from Gerilyn, Gerilyn, middle initial K, last name Trulove Meller, spelled Trulove -Mellor. That letter is also undated. There's a letter from Nelson Tucker, Nelson Tucker, that's dated October 17th, 2017. Next, we have a letter from Peter Horton, Peter Horton, that's dated October 18th, 2017. Next, there is a letter from Ron Phillips, Ron Phillips, and that's dated October 14th, 2017. Our penultimate item is a letter from Pastor Dr. Scott, Scott, middle initial L, Basolo, Basolo, that's undated. And finally, in the petition packet, we have a letter from Dr. William, William, Varner, Varner, and that letter is dated October 19th, 2017. I'd like to mark all of those collectively as Exhibit 1.
Okay. So Exhibit 1 has been marked for identification. So how would you like to move these exhibits in, Mr. King? For jurisdictional purposes, for all purposes, or we can separate some of them for jurisdictional purposes only? For example, the notice of hearing?
I think we'll take the jurisdictional documents as jurisdictional, so the notice of hearing and the petition, and the rest can be taken in as direct evidence.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Hoft.
And Your Honor, I apologize.
No, go ahead, Mr. King.
I'd also ask that since the decision in order is technically, it is the board's decision, official notice should be taken of it.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Hoft, I'm going to break this down for you. There's a lot of legalese. So, first of all, there are some documents in this packet that's been marked for identification as Exhibit 1 that are jurisdictional in nature. What that means is that these are just the documents that establish the basis for the board to hear your case today. They are simply the documents that led to the hearing. For example, you filed a petition and there's a notice of hearing. So those documents are offered for jurisdictional purposes only. Do you have any objections?
No.
Okay, so the jurisdictional documents are taken as for jurisdictional purpose, are admitted for jurisdictional purposes only. So next, Mr. King is asking me to take official notice of the board's prior decisions. Again, what that means is that this is not evidence in the sense that this is already a prior decision, but I may take notice of it. Do you have any objections?
None at all.
Okay, so official notice is taken of the board's prior decisions. The remainder of the documents that are in the exhibit that Mr. King has already recited in detail for the record are to be admitted as introduced as direct evidence. Do you have any objections for the remaining documents to be admitted for all purposes?
No, they were submitted as directed.
Okay, thank you. So the remainder of the documents are admitted for all purposes. Go ahead, Mr. King.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to provide the context for why we're here today and begin with the decision that led to Dr. Hoft being placed on probation. The board issued a petitioner an optometrist license on September 22nd, 1959, and that's nearly 62 years ago. The license will expire on February 28th of 2023 unless it's renewed. And Dr. Hoft, as is evident from these proceedings, is currently on probation. Now, what led to us being here is an accusation was filed against Dr. Hoft in September of 2017, and it alleged two causes for discipline. The first cause alleged that petitioner committed unprofessional conduct through repeated acts of excessive prescribing. And both of these causes for discipline had to do with one patient who's abbreviated patient GB. The second cause alleged that petitioner committed unprofessional conduct by failing to refer his patient to an ophthalmologist when that patient continued to have pain after what would have been an allowable 3-day regimen of hydrocodone drug. This led to the filing of an accusation on January 23rd, 2018, after the accusation had been filed in September of the previous year. The parties to the accusation, which were petitioner and complainant, entered into a stipulated settlement. The board adopted that settlement agreement as its decision in the case and issued an order on February 20th of 2018. So the board's decision became effective on March 22nd, 2018. And I'll describe what that decision entailed. Under the board's decision, petitioner's optometrist license was revoked, but that revocation was stayed. And Dr. Hoft's license was placed on probation for a period of 4 years on 18 different terms and conditions. A lot of these terms are standard terms, but even so, I'll describe them. The board ordered petitioner to obey all laws. He had to file quarterly reports of compliance, cooperate with the probation monitoring program, pay probation monitoring costs. He had to function as an optometrist for a minimum of 60 hours per month throughout the entire term of probation. He had to notify all of his employers of the decision, as well as his probationary status. He had to report to the board any change in his employment or residence. He had to pay cost recovery in the sum of $10,721.25. He also had to take and pass the California laws and regulations examination. Dr. Hoft also had to perform community service. This is framed as free non-optometric or professional optometric services, and this had to have been through a board-approved community service program with a minimum of 16 hours for each month that petitioner was on probation. Petitioner also had to maintain a valid license and meet all of the continuing education requirements. He had to notify the board of any out-of-state residence or practice. He had to also notify the board if at any point he desired to surrender his license because of retirement or health or any inability to complete probation, which obviously he didn't, so that's inapplicable. But he also had to comply with all these terms of probation, but in addition, he had to complete probation as a condition of having the license restored. He had to ensure the continuity of patient care if he was going to close his office. And importantly, these specific terms apply based on the causes for discipline. He had to maintain patient records that were available for board inspection as to all controlled substance prescriptions that were either dispensed or administered by him during probation. And those had to contain patient-specific information like name and date of birth, the date of the prescription, the quantity, and the day's supply of the prescription, and the visual impairment that he had identified for which the prescription was justified. Finally, Dr. Hoft had to complete a continuing education course of at least 8 hours duration in controlled substances and pain management. He also had to pay the costs of attending that course and submit proof of attendance to the board. So those are the terms that petitioner has been under for the last 3.5 years. Now, what brought petitioner before the board in the first instance are the facts of the accusation, and I'll briefly describe those. By law, and it shouldn't be any surprise to the people in this room, optometrists certified to use therapeutic pharmaceutical agents, such as petitioner was, may prescribe hydrocodone. That's a controlled substance. It has an opiate-like effect. However, there's a limitation on the prescription authority. Optometrists can't prescribe more than a 3-day supply of a hydrocodone-containing therapeutic agent. And if the patient's pain persists beyond that 3-day supply, the law requires the optometrist to refer the patient to an ophthalmologist. Now, petitioner, over a 3-year period from June of 2012 through June of 2015, he prescribed the drug hydrocodone bitartrate, B-I-T-A-R-T-R-A-T-E, and acetaminophen, A-C-E-T-A-M-I-N-O-P-H-E-N, in a strength of 325 milligrams, that's the hydrocodone part, and 10 milligrams is the acetaminophen part, 60 tablets to his patient, GB. And he did this a total of 18 times. He either wrote a new prescription or authorized a refill. Now, each one of those prescriptions exceeded the 3-day legal prescription limitation that applies to a drug like hydrocodone bitartrate and acetaminophen. In total, over 18 prescriptions over 3 years, petitioner prescribed and his patient received 1,070 tablets of this controlled substance. Each of the prescriptions that petitioner authorized carried a diagnostic code that meant pain in and around the eye. And this came to the board's attention when there was an audit of a pharmacy. In September of 2015, the pharmacist in charge of the pharmacy that filled this patient's medication received another prescription from petitioner for the hydrocodone bitartrate acetaminophen and declined to fill it. An investigator with the Department of Consumer Affairs, also in September of 2015, contacted petitioner and discussed his prescribing practices with him. To his credit, petitioner was upfront, although he wasn't completely knowledgeable about the legal restriction imposed on optometrist prescribing. Petitioner identified that for this patient had chronic iritis, and for several years she had suffered from that condition. And he believed that it was appropriate to prescribe to this patient because this patient's ophthalmologist had made this prescription, and he concurred with it and was just continuing the medication. So petitioner justified the prescriptions by saying that the patient's iritis continued to flare up, and he would then just write the prescription to help his patient relieve her pain. Petitioner seems to have been, because he asked the investigator, he seems to have been unaware of the legal requirements here, because he asked whether it was appropriate for him to prescribe that pain medication, and he confessed that he was not aware of the 3-day limit for hydrocodone containing drugs. That's really the factual summary. As far as petitioner's probation, he's been on probation since March 22nd, 2018. It's the understanding of my office that petitioner is currently in compliance and has been in compliance with all terms and conditions of probation. Now, because the burden in this proceeding falls on petitioner, I don't have any further statement, but I would like to reserve the opportunity to question petitioner if he decides to make a statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Okay, so Dr. Hoft, Mr. King has completed his presentation or summary of the case. How would you like to proceed with your case in chief? Would you like to testify on your own behalf?
I would just like to make a statement. Number one, everything he
Okay,
said was
I'm
true.
sorry, Dr. Hoft. I'm sorry, Dr. Hoft. If you are going to make a statement, I'm going to have to swear you in. It's going to have to be under oath and in the form of a testimony, okay?
Okay.
So raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I will give you some general guidelines about how to proceed. You may testify in a narrative format. That means that you don't have an attorney who's going to do a question and answer format. When you're testifying in a narrative format, please slow down. Do not speed up. Again, be aware of the presence of our court reporter. If Mr. King has an objection, just stop, let me make the ruling, and then you can proceed. In terms of the substance of your testimony, what we're looking for is you can give us a brief background about yourself, such as your education history, your employment history, perhaps for the last 5 years, the underlying incident that led to the discipline against your license, what your version of the facts and circumstances are surrounding that particular event, and what you have done since that time for rehabilitation. So for example, compliance with the probation terms, which Mr. King did touch on already, but again, you can put it in your own words. You can also let us know if there are any additional acts you have performed for rehabilitation. For example, additional voluntary hours in the community, other types of involvement in the community, anything else that you think shows that you have rehabilitated from the underlying event that led to the discipline of your license. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so thank you very much. You may proceed if you like with your testimony. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me here today. What the gentleman just said was absolutely true, 100%. Everything about that I agree with, all right? And I've been active in optometry for over 65 years, both in office and fighting for optometry nationwide. I've written many articles. As a matter of fact, he mentioned one of the articles that we just wrote. Since we had the COVID issue, we had time to write some articles. I believe that I've been sufficiently reprimanded for my wrongdoing. I thought I was being a good Samaritan to a fellow optometrist's wife who was already under care for her pain, which he's already explained to you. And you see that in my file, for those of you that have seen the file. In 65 years of practice, only one incident, one patient in my whole career did I ever prescribe a narcotic pain medication. I admit to my wrongdoing. For 3.5 years, I've complied with all that has been required of me by the state. My quarterly reports to my monitor verify that. I've had working as a volunteer. I have been putting in maybe 20, maybe 24 hours a month. It's been very exciting. I'm working as a volunteer. Okay. I've also paid the quarterly costs, which were over $10,000 in full. And basically, I respectfully ask for early termination of my probation. That's all my statement.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hoft. Cross-examination, Mr. King.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Hoft, I have a few questions for you. So let me start with, you do recognize that you were disciplined because of this excessive prescribing of the hydrocodone bitartrate acetaminophen for patient GB, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, there was something that I was a little curious about. I didn't see it in the record necessarily, but you had prescribed 60 tablets to the patient in each one of these 18 prescriptions or refills. What were the instructions for how many pills per day the patient was to take the medication?
I don't have that with me. It's been such a long time. It was the only case that I ever did. I've never prescribed a narcotic before or narcotic afterwards. And I honestly don't remember any prescription that I wrote for 60 tablets.
Okay. To your knowledge, how many days supply was each prescription?
I thought they were for 3 days.
So 20 hydrocodone pills per day?
I wouldn't think so.
So then it must have been more than 3 days.
I would not have prescribed it for more than 3 days. That I knew, but I don't ever remember a 60 tablet prescription.
As part of probation, you were ordered to complete an 8-hour course in controlled substances and pain management. Is that right?
Correct.
And you completed that course, correct?
Yes, and I sent that information with the courses to my monitor.
Having taken that course, do you now know that as an optometrist, you're limited to writing a prescription for no more than 3 days if the prescription is for a hydrocodone containing drug?
Absolutely. And I have not prescribed anybody else ever since. This was just a personal friend's wife.
Now, another reason you were disciplined, the second cause, was because you failed to refer your patient to an ophthalmologist when her pain persisted beyond a 3-day period. Is that correct?
Correct.
And do you know now, having been on probation and having taken that course in pain management, that if you had a patient who had pain that went beyond a 3-day supply of hydrocodone drugs, that you would need to refer that patient to an ophthalmologist?
Absolutely.
Do you recognize that there were some potential harms in your prescribing practices before?
Yes.
So I just want to talk about a few of those. A potential harm of excessive prescribing, especially with hydrocodone, it could be that the patient abuses the drug or becomes addicted to the drug. Is that right?
Correct.
Are you aware now that the black label warning for the medication you prescribe states that because of the risk of addiction, the healthcare professional should always prescribe the smallest appropriate amount?
Absolutely.
Do you recognize now that a further potential harm of prescribing this medication, and especially in the amount that you did, was the potential for criminal diversion of the drug? The drug ends up on the streets, for instance.
Correct.
So what practice changes have you made now that you've had the better part of 3 years to reflect on that prescribing practice? What changes have you made to ensure that you don't issue prescriptions containing hydrocodone beyond a 3-day supply?
You mentioned an article that I wrote in Low Vision, and I've been practicing for 65 years. I have a geriatric practice. Ophthalmology refers patients to me because of my expertise with low vision devices to enhance their ability to see better. I have not renewed the license for narcotics. I do not prescribe. I prescribed for one patient, an optometrist friend that we played bridge with, and she was telling me that she was currently under care from her ophthalmologist, and I was just trying to help and made a mistake.
So you've voluntarily relinquished your ability to prescribe narcotics. Did I understand that
Absolutely.
correctly?
Yes, sir.
So that's one of the practice changes you've made. Any other practice changes to address that element of your case?
Letting the younger doctors in the office prescribe the medicines.
Okay. What practice changes then have you made to ensure that if you've got a patient who one of the other doctors in your office has given a 3-day supply of hydrocodone, the patient comes to you and says, this pain is persisting. What practice changes have you made to ensure proper referral of that patient to an ophthalmologist?
The office manager does not give me those patients.
All right, beyond the practice changes you spoke about, if you're faced with the same situation today that led you to being disciplined, how would you handle it? Would you handle it differently? And if so, how?
First of all, I would not be prescribing the narcotic. I would be referred to one of the other doctors that has the narcotic license, and they would make that decision. I would not make that decision because I would not prescribe the medication.
So it's fair to say if you were faced with the same circumstances you were in 2012 through 2015, you would decline to issue a prescription to patient GB.
Absolutely.
Now, I need to do a few housekeeping things. You submitted some letters from various individuals, and some of them are undated. So to the best of your knowledge and ability, I'd like to see if you can tell us when they were prepared. Do you know when the letter from Alan Hurt was prepared, or when it was submitted to you?
I would say that all the letters were about the same time when I was petitioning the board at the beginning of this problem.
And when would that be, if you give us that date?
I think it was 2017 would be the best of my knowledge.
Now, some of the letters are dated in October of 2017. Is it your belief that the undated letters all came from about that same period of time, October 2017?
I would say September and October, yes.
All right, then, talking not just about those undated letters, but all of them, dated and undated alike, were any of the authors of the letters you submitted in your petition packet aware of the conduct that was alleged in the board's accusation?
Every one of them.
And how do you know that?
Because we reached out to them to ask if they would write the letter and explained what the circumstances and what I had done.
And you explained to each of the authors of the letters the reason you were asking for a reference letter.
Correct.
And that explanation included that you were being accused of excessive prescribing for one patient.
That I was actually guilty of doing that, yes.
All right, Dr. Hoft, are there any terms of probation you haven't completed yet other than just the term, to complete the term of 4 years?
None.
And you mentioned this already, but I just want to confirm you've paid all cost recovery?
Yes.
Right, then my final question to you, Dr. Hoft, is why should the board grant your petition for early termination?
I believe I've complied with everything that has been asked of me. I did notice that there was an opportunity that if everything was paid for and within 6 months of my final time, that I had this ability to petition the board.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have anything further.
Okay, at this time, the board may ask questions of Dr. Hoft. As I stated earlier, please, if you're asking questions of Dr. Hoft, identify yourself for the record and spell out your name for the record. So any questions from board members? Please speak up if you have questions.
I have a question.
Okay, please identify yourself.
I'm board member Mark Morodomi. So one question that I
Sorry,
have.
if you can, please spell out your name.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Morodomi. First name Mark, M-A-R-K.
Go ahead.
One question that I have, Dr. Hoff, if you could address it. I saw the many letters you had, but as you mentioned to the Deputy Attorney General, the letters are kind of old, way back in 2017. So that kind of raises some question in my mind of, well, you know, how is Dr. Hoff now? So I was just giving you an opportunity to address that question that I have in my mind.
I'm the same man in 2017 as I am now, only I'm 86 years old. with a triple bypass surgery and had my COVID. So that's me. I love optometry. I love what it stands for. I love fighting for it. I love the geriatric practice. And I would love to continue to practice as long as the Lord wants me to do so.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any other questions from the board?
So
Yeah.
I have a question. My name is Uni Linden. Uni is E-U-N-I-E. Linden, L-I-N-D-E-N. So just to clarify, this was the only instance of ever prescribing a narcotic to a patient. No prior prescriptions before the incident or after the incident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I believe when a question was asked regarding changes to the practice, I think you had said that, you know, the office manager will refer patients that might need some prescriptions to other doctors within your office.
Correct.
I was just curious. If the other doctors in the office were aware of your experience and if you have, you know, just, you know, brought up the issue of, you know, 3 days worth of prescription, you know, on a referral to an ophthalmologist, if it goes beyond that.
All staff and all doctors know of my position with the state board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other board members?
Yes, this is Glenn Kawaguchi, Glenn, last name Kawaguchi. Dr. Hoft, you've continued to see patients in the practice.
Yes.
Are you able to accept vision plans?
Yes.
Are any of the vision plans aware of your probation?
All of them.
Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Any other questions from the board before I offer Dr. Hoft another opportunity to provide any additional testimony? Okay. Doesn't seem like there are further questions from the board. So Dr. Hoft, is there anything else that you would like to state for the record in terms of your testimony?
Just that I want to thank you for the opportunity to bring this to you.
Okay. All right. So with that, any further questions, Mr. King?
This is Matthew King. No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we move on to closing argument? Okay, I don't hear anything else. So, Mr. King, would you like to provide a closing summary or recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. This is Matthew King speaking. In closing, I'd like to say that the people are going to set forth the following facts, but we're not going to take a position on the petition's outcome. Petitioner comes before the board after serving 3 years and 5 months on probation out of a 4-year term. His misconduct, it occurred between 2012 and 2015. It involved one patient. Certainly there was the potential for harm, but the decision does not indicate that there was actual harm to the patient. To the people's knowledge, the misconduct has not reoccurred. Petitioner's probation is set to terminate in March of next year in just 6 months and 23 days. There's no doubt that Dr. Hoft exercised poor professional judgment here and exceeded what he was allowed to do when he authorized 1,070 tablets of a hydrocodone-containing drug. That's really a staggering amount of medication, especially for a controlled substance. There's certainly no doubt that Dr. Hoft exercised poor professional judgment when he continued to authorize refills instead of referring the patient to an ophthalmologist. So the board's decision, no doubt, was proper at the time, and probation was warranted here. On the other hand, since beginning probation on March 22nd of 2018, Dr. Hoft appears to have been dutiful in meeting all probation terms. He seems to have the proper rectitude and respect for the board's regulations and laws and for what's required of a professional in this practice. It's also worth noting that he's been licensed as an optometrist in this state for 61 years and 11 months. It's almost 62 years. He's had no prior discipline except the instant case. He submitted reference letters from 14 people. This was a mix of patients, professional peers, and friends. The people do share the reservation about the date of these letters. And ideally, we would see letters that came from last year or this year rather than in 2017. But if we look at what these letters say, they create an impression of petitioner as somebody who's skilled and conscientious, especially with low vision patients. The letters speak to how highly petitioner is esteemed in his profession by both practitioners and patients alike. In addition, as evidenced by Dr. Hoft's writings, he's contributed to the professional literature on low vision practice. I would remark that in today's hearing, it appears that petitioner candidly and fully answered my questions. So at this point, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address the board today, and the people submit without giving any recommendation on the outcome of the petition.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. Dr. Hoft, would you like to present a closing statement?
Just again, thank you for hearing my petition, and would love to be able to have early termination.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hoft. Unless there's anything further from either party, what I will do is simply close the record go off the record, and we will, again, the process for after closing the record is that the board will go into closed session, make a decision that's not going to be announced today, and the decision will be mailed out to the parties as soon as possible. Okay, anything further, Mr. King?
This is Matthew King speaking. No, Your Honor.
Okay, Dr. Hoft, anything further?
No, Your Honor, just thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to both parties. We are going off the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of Wang Hoft. Okay, thank you.
It was not that bad.
Close out.
Yeah, Lisa, I know it's a little scary in the beginning, but it really is not that bad.
It was not that bad. Thank you for making it very, very easy for me. I so appreciate that.
Things have gone much worse in virtual hearings. Let me tell you.
I'm sure. So do you need the page count now, or do I report
You
whenever?
know what? I realize that what happened, this is highly unusual. It doesn't happen too often for OAH, but this is split between LA and San Diego, and apparently we hired our own court reporters for each case because I see another court reporter online. So I think, Patty, are you the other court reporter? Just confirm for me that you are going to be reporting for the Dawson case. Otherwise, I'm not going to let this court reporter go.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm here for the Dawson case.
Okay, great. All right.
Great.
So Lisa, if you can give me the end time and page estimate, and I think you're done for today.
Okay, the page count is 36.
Okay.
And the end time that I have is 3:10.
Okay, great.
Okay, now the private stuff with the board members, now do I report that, or this is it?
No, you don't report that. That's confidential. Do you have any spellings or any other? Okay, all right. So you don't have anything that we need to.
So yeah, they spelled their names when they asked the question, so I'm good with that.
Okay, great.
Okay, now I don't have to transcribe this, or I do?
I actually don't know the answer to that question. All I know
you
is
guys
that
can, yeah, you guys can notify the firm that has the
Okay,
contract with the
I
OAH, and then
believe-
they'll let me know.
Right, I believe that Kennedy is the court reporter, I mean, the
Correct, the firm.
agency. Mr. King, do you need the, okay, actually, Dr. Hoft and Mr. King, while you are here, let me give you Kennedy's phone number so that you can call them for
Transcript.
transcript. Actually, do you mind, Lisa, do you have that phone number offhand? I don't think I have it offhand.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Judge, this is Mark Morodomi.
Yes.
Does the court reporter need the names of the other board members that were sitting in hearing on this, even though they didn't talk?
So
No.
like on the appearance page to have them show as also present? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
That's what I'm asking. I don't know what the procedure is, but that's what I'm asking.
You know,
That would be helpful for our purposes, actually.
Okay, all
because-
right.
Yes.
Okay, so it will be
Can-
helpful for me as well. So I think perhaps what we can do is just have all the board members. If you want to, we can go back on the record and just have all the board members report their presence.
Do you guys have like a trunk email that shows everybody that, you know, or something that you could send to me that shows everybody? I'm okay
on
with
the
that, because some of
It's on the
them,
agenda for today's meeting.
Okay,
and-
can you
and-
send her, can you send the court reporter the agenda?
Sure, we can have that sent, yeah.
Okay,
okay, do you want to send it to me or do you want to send it to the deposition firm?
I think typically we send it directly to the court reporter.
Okay, so let me give whoever is going to send it, let me give you my email. It's L and then the underscore and my last name spelled SCHIRMEISTER at msn.com.
Rebecca, you should note when you send that one of the board members is absent today.
Okay, could you tell me who that board member is?
It's board member Sims.
Yeah, Sandra Sims.
Okay, Sandra.
And one of the people on this list that's on the right-hand side only has a first name of Caesar. So I don't know if that person wants a last name added or is okay with just showing that his name is Caesar. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so
And then you wanted the phone number?
I just got it too, but go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, I'll give you guys the 800 number. It's 1-800-231-2682.
So that's Kennedy Court Reporters, Dr. Hoft, and Mr. King. If you need a transcript, call Kennedy Court Reporters, give them this case number, and they will be able to provide you with the transcript. Lisa,
Great.
I think what
All right,
happens
thank
is
you.
that only when they order it, you transcribe it.
Okay, no, that's fine. No, that's perfectly fine. So, okay, it's been great. It wasn't as bad as I thought. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so for the next petition, what I will do is I will simply mute myself and stop my video, but I will sit back and just be available whenever that ends so that we can go into closed session. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the next ALJ.
Good afternoon. This is Administrative Law Judge Jamie Teagle-Burgos. Can you all hear me? Yes, wonderful. Okay, good. I'm handling the matter of Mr. Dawson, and I'd like to first find out. I see Mr. Dawson is here. Mr. Dawson, you were present earlier when I scrolled down? Are you there? I don't hear you. Let's see. You are on mute. You want to if you unmute yourself, we can hear you. Mr. Dawson. It looks like you're unmuted now. Can you try to speak so I can hear you? Mr. Dawson, are you there? Oh, wait, there you go. Can you speak? Okay. Want to try it again? Okay. Everyone can hear me correctly? Correct? Okay. Mr. Dawson, it looks like you are no longer muted, but I can't, but you're present, but I cannot hear you. So maybe while you're trying to adjust your audio, I'm going to go ahead and find out who the Deputy Attorney General is on this matter. Who is the Deputy Attorney General, please?
Yes, good afternoon. Deputy Attorney General Ted Durkar. That's spelled D-R-C-A-R.
Good afternoon, Mr. Durkar. Doing a roll call, so I had two matters and make sure I know who's with which tab we have for each matter. Okay, very good. And I just want to make sure that the petitioner, Mr. Dawson, is able to participate. And Mr. Dawson, let's see. Looks like you're no longer muted, but we cannot hear you for some reason. Oh, and you're attending by, you're going to connect to the audio. You're joined on your mobile device. And is it possible? Oh, are you there? Mr. Dawson, do you want to try speaking again? Looks like, looks like there's low bandwidth on your phone, it says. Maybe you can just try to participate by telephone at this point. I think the bandwidth might be an issue for your video, and that might be affecting your telephone, your audio. I want to make sure that you are able to present. Mr. Durkar,
Yes, Your Honor.
is it possible for since we're not on Teams, I can't call him in. I'm thinking maybe if we just try to call him on a separate line, he can hang up. We can just get him on audio so he can participate. But I think he's having some trouble with his bandwidth. That's what it's showing me on my end here.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can find his phone number.
Okay, I appreciate it. I will look. I don't have his contact info on my end here. I'm not sure if the board does. But he's present. We can't see him or hear him through his I think he's logging in on the app.
I have a phone number for him, and what I'll do is figure out the call-in number for audio.
Okay,
That way we at least get the audio connection, and he could still have the video through his phone if he recovers some bandwidth.
Good idea. I have the call-in for audio, the call-in number. Would you like it?
Yes, please.
It's 415-655-0001.
Is there a code, access code?
I think it's the same for the video, but it says event number 146-908-0085 and password optometry capital O 827-2021.
This is the moderator. I'm sorry, Your Honor. If they're calling in, there's a different password.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
And it's a number. It's 67866387.
67866387.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Okay.
You're welcome.
We'll go ahead and try. I appreciate everyone's patience. Mr. Durkar, I appreciate your assistance. And while Mr. Durkar is attempting to reach Mr. Dawson by phone. We have a court reporter here.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. There's some, Ms. Lindsay?
Yes,
Thank you. And CSR is 8697?
correct.
Very good. Thank you. And I have a court reporter form for you. I believe it's through Kennedy as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at the end of the hearing here for closed session, we'll go ahead and get the information, okay?
Sure.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Dakar speaking on the phone. I think he's hopefully able to contact Mr. Dawson. Oh, I see video of Mr. Dawson. Okay. Oh, I hear you, Mr. Dawson. I hear you barely. You're breaking in and out, but I'm starting to hear you.
I'm actually on phone with Ted.
I'm hearing you. I'm trying to speak again.
I'm mute myself.
I'm barely hearing you.
I'm on mute. I see the little green light flicking. Okay, so I'm gonna call this from my phone or am I? Wait, she's asking me to speak now. I'm speaking now, can you hear me?
I hear you, Mr. Dawson. Can you go ahead and speak a little bit more so we can make sure that we have a...
Speaking now, can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you speak a little slower?
Yeah, I don't think you can hear me. Okay,
It's cutting in and out, but I hear you better.
6, 5, 0, 1. Seven, 6, 7, 8, 6, 16, 17, 6, 8, 6, 6, 3, 7. I'll go do that right now. Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
All right, he is going to call in that number and hopefully he'll get a clear audio
Okay,
connection.
great. I really appreciate it. I see his video very nicely now, on my end at least, and hopefully we can get your audio. Thank you, Mr. Dakar. I really do appreciate your assistance.
He said that he could see and hear us, so the feed to his phone or device was good.
Okay, but was I the only one who couldn't hear him very well right now, or others as well then couldn't hear him? Okay, great. So hopefully we'll give him an opportunity to call in. It's hard to know if your audio or video is working until the proceeding begins. If you're not used to these platforms, of course. Mr. Dawson, I hear you coming in and out. Are you on the phone as well? We can't hear you anymore, but if you can try to call in on the phone, if you haven't done that yet. Oh, is that you? Mr. Jakar.
Yes.
So he's trying to call in. Oh, I see he's on his phone now. Okay, I see his video now. Okay.
Oh, he's calling me right now.
Oh, so, okay.
I'll mute myself and take his call.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Dawson.
You're not muted.
We hear you.
Hey, sir. You got it.
Oh, okay.
Correct number. The phone number was correct. Is that correct? I can see everything.
I just spoke with Mr. Dawson and he said that he called the number but got a response that that was the incorrect PIN number. I don't know if that password was maybe specific to a particular individual, if he needs a different.
Let's ask the moderator. Madam Moderator, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you confirm the join by phone and the password, the numbers that should be called, please?
Sure. Okay. So the number to call to join the meeting is area code 415-655-0001.
That's what I tried.
And then he'll be prompted to put in the access code, which is 146-908-0085. And then the password he'll need to enter after that is 67866387.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just told him to enter the password. I didn't understand there was that
didn't
it's a
realize
two-step process.
I apologize.
Okay.
I think he heard the instructions over the video. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I appreciate your assistance.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I believe we will get Mr. Dawson joining the phone soon.
You hear me now?
I hear you. Go ahead and try to speak a whole sentence to make sure you don't break up. We're going to give it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Dawson, are you there?
I'm speaking now. You can hear me?
Okay, so what I want you to do, please go ahead and on your computer.
I tried to call the number with the access code. I've been over the access code twice.
It's not working.
Were you able to hear that?
I can't hear you. So are you saying that the access code and the password are not working? Mr. Dakar, I apologize. Can you call him again? Because I can't. I'm trying to tell.
I will.
Ma'am.
And Mr. Dakar, I think what needs to happen is if he can mute his.
I tried calling the number, but the access pin said the incorrect.
The access pin said incorrect. Okay, well, let me have Mr. Dakar clarify. He's going to call you right now, okay?
Is there another access pin number?
Is there another PIN number? I'm going to
If
ask
I might,
Mr.
I
Dakar.
apologize. This is Executive
Yes.
Officer Shar Murphy. I believe that you're only using half the PIN number. So what we want to do is to first use 67866-387, then enter 8272021.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Murphy. It appears, Mr. Dawson and Mr. Dakar, that the password is actually two parts. There's more to the number. It's 678663878272021. Can you try again, Mr. Dawson, to call with that password, please? He's trying. Okay, very good.
Hey, just me again, sir. You have a question? Okay. Okay, we'll try that. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, and then it's 968. Okay, okay. Okay. 7, 0, 2, 1. Okay. I'll try this. So, as well.
All right, he's going to try again.
Thank you, Mr. Dupar. And when hopefully it works. If it works, we'll have to have him, I believe, mute his computer. I keep his phone audio, so there's no.
Yeah, I'm not sure because on some of my video conferences, when I've switched from computer to phone audio, it automatically switched my audio and wasn't taking the computer feed anymore.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you could be right. I'm just not sure on the WebEx system.
Yeah, I'm not sure on WebEx as well.
This is the moderator, and so I called into the meeting with no problem. The steps are to call the phone number, and then you enter the access code followed by the pound sign. The access code, so you call the phone number, then you enter the access code, which is 146-908-0085, and then you enter the pound, hit the pound key, and then you enter the phone password, which is 67866387, followed by the pound key, and then you will be able to enter the meeting.
Okay. It seems like we didn't have the pound key for the instructions.
Yeah, when you enter the number, it tells you to hit the pound key.
Okay. Mr. Dixar, are you there?
Yes, I'll try giving him a call now.
Yeah.
Give him the third iteration.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about the delay.
That's okay. He's trying to. He's trying.
Okay, just me again. Okay. So I get at 8:70. Okay, we tried it. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you. Nope. Can you hear me?
Are you on your phone? Is it not working on your phone?
Yes, I'm here.
He's muted, so I don't know if we could tell if he has a good connection.
Madam Moderator, can you unmute him by chance on your end? I cannot.
Unfortunately, I can't. I can just give him permission to unmute himself, but I just promoted a call-in user. I'll see if this might be him.
Oh, okay.
That looks like him. That is his number.
Okay, good.
Wonderful.
All right. So he should be able to unmute himself now because he's a panelist.
Okay, on the call-in user, you mean? Or, okay,
yes.
On his cell phone, on his cell phone. Okay, Mr. Dawson, go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect. Okay, so you can. It appears, Mr. Dawson and Mr. Dakar, that the password is actually two parts. There's more to the number. It's 678-663-87-8272-021. Can you try again, Mr. Dawson, to call?
Oh, but I think I think Mr. Dawson is with us now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on the call. I guess your end had me muted, and it allowed me to unmute myself just now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. So keep all your audio and link onto WebEx exactly how you have it. I think we're good now. We can see you and hear you. So I appreciate it. Thank you everyone for your patience. Wonderful. And Mr. Dakar, thank you for your assistance, and Madam Moderator as well. Okay. With that said, let's see. What I'd like to do is I already took a roll call per se, and as far as the board members, their presence, I'll do that after I open the record. Okay. Mr. Dakar, is there anything before I open the record?
No, Your Honor, I'm ready to proceed.
Okay, thank you. The record is now open in the matter of the petition for the reduction of penalty or early termination of probation filed by Martin Earl Dawson. We'll have to have him, I believe, mute his computer. I keep his phone audio, so there's no. Is somebody?
I'm not sure because on some of my video conferences.
Is there another call in? Is somebody hearing audio besides me? I apologize.
Yes, it almost sounds like it's from a past conversation that's now being
recorded.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yes, I don't know what that is. I'm not sure if Madam Moderator, if you heard that as well. It seems like the audio from back in time on WebEx is being played.
I did hear that, and I wasn't sure if it was perhaps Dr. Martin, if he was listening to some recording. I muted his microphone. He can unmute himself anytime.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and start over. So the record is now open in the matter of the petition for reduction of penalty or early termination of probation filed by Martin Earl Dawson. This matter, I apologize. This is in regards to the registered spectacle lens dispenser, certificate of registration number 42036, as well as the registered contact lens dispenser, certificate of registration number 8596. This matter bears the OAH case number 2019-050-477. Today's date is August 27th, 2021, and this hearing is being held today by video and telephone on WebEx. My name is Jamie Teagle-Burgos, and I'm Administrative Law Judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to sit with the California State Board of Optometry, which is convened here today to consider this petition by Mr. Dawson. First, I'd like to take the appearances for the record, beginning with the Attorney General's office.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Deputy Attorney General Ted Durkar, that is spelled D-R-C-A-R, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522 for this hearing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dakar. Thank you. And for the petitioner, you may introduce yourself. Mr. Dawson, you go ahead and unmute your line and go ahead and just introduce yourself.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Martin Earl Dawson, D-A-W-S-O-N.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson. Thank you for your patience and calling in and logging in earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'd like to, for the appearances, if the board members could please identify themselves who are here on record today.
Ms. Linden, do you just want to call out each? Oh, I'll just go first. My name is Lillian Wong, Lillian. Last name is W-A-N-G.
Thank you.
Mark Morodomi, M-A-R-K, M-O-R-O-D-O-M-I.
Thank you, Mr. Morodomi.
Jeffrey Garcia, Jeffrey-Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Uni Linden, E-U-N-I-E-L-I-N-D-E-N.
Thank you, Ms. Linden.
David Turetsky, T-U-R-E-T-S-K-Y.
Thank you, Mr. Turetsky.
Joseph Pruitt, J-O-S-E-P-H, P-R-U-I-T-T.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
Sid Brandvine, C-Y-D-B-R-A-N-D-V-E-I-N.
Thank you, Ms. Brandvine.
Glenn Kawaguchi, G-L-E-N-N K-A-W-A-G-U-C-H-I.
Thank you, Mr. Kawaguchi. And I apologize, I do believe that some of you are doctors, and I appreciate your presence. Thank you. Okay, so I first like to address Mr. Dawson. I'd like to address you specifically and explain the procedure of the hearing today, so you know what the process is, and you understand what's going to happen today. Okay, and then after I speak with you, we'll go ahead and continue on with the hearing. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I know you're representing yourself today, so I'll just go ahead and go through what the procedure will be. The burden of proof is on you to establish that you are entitled to the early termination of probation or modification of your probation, okay? The Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Dakar, will first offer the jurisdictional documents, including your petition that you filed and any documents that you submitted in support of your petition. And Mr. Dakar will then outline the background of the case, okay?
Yes.
Okay, then after Mr. Dakar is done, then you can go ahead and make your presentation to the board, okay? And if you have any additional documents at the time that you had not yet provided to the board, you may do so then at that time. You may testify on your own behalf. You may call witnesses to testify for you. The members of the board and Mr. Dakar, the Deputy Attorney General, will probably have some questions for you, okay, and possibly for your witnesses if you have any witnesses as well, okay? And you have a right to raise any legal objections to any questions that are posed to you or your witnesses. And if you do, then you have to state the basis of your objection, and I will make a ruling on the objection, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After your petition has been heard by the board will then meet in closed session for deliberation, okay? And the board's decision will not be announced today. Later on, there'll be a written decision mailed to you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And if you have any questions as the hearing proceeds, as far as the process, go ahead and interrupt, and I'll make sure that we're all on the same page, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay. with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn to Mr. Dakar.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I wanted to cover a housekeeping matter. You provided a case number here for this matter of 2019050, I believe 477. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is the case number from the statement of issues that was heard in 2019 for this case. I don't know if that is if that case number continues or if a new one would be assigned for this petition.
Let me look. It looks, I usually pull it from, one. I am, no, thank you for pointing that out to me. It looks like it should be 2021-080-202. Is that correct?
Uh,
That's the one that I have.
I can't confirm that, but that because it starts with 2021, I presume it's correct.
I believe what happened is I'm looking actually at the notice of hearing. The notice of hearing that was issued by the board has the 2019-050-477 OAH case number on it, but I'm now looking at OAH, our calendar, and the calendar says 2021-080-202. And I believe, Madam Moderator, may I ask if you could please clarify for the board the case number, if you know, with the OAH case number. I believe it's the 2021 number.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the moderator, and I just run the software, so I defer to either the board president or the executive officer.
Okay, thank you. There goes the recording again. I'm just going to ignore it in the background.
Shar, do you have another number? On the top of my screen, I have 202-10827. So my number's a little bit different.
Hi, this is Terry Villarreal, the lead enforcement analyst. Let me get that number and get back to you here in a minute. I apologize for that confusion.
Okay, thank you. And I do believe I'm just double checking with OAH here, and I'm pulling up the file, and I do have the 2021-080-202 listed on my end, but I can say that the notice of hearing has a different OAH number, and I believe that Mr. Dakar is correct. That's the previous number for the prior corrected proposed decision.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're looking for the correct OAH number or the correct complaint number?
OAH number, and as far as the complaint number, I do have 420-2018-000-449.
Okay, I'll confirm that as well.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and proceed, and you can just interject later on to confirm those numbers, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And please confirm the OAH number and the agency, the board's case number when you're looking them up. I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Dakar, is that okay for the housekeeping?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you. And if for some reason I forget, I've got my note here, please remind me, so we don't want to leave until we've got those numbers confirmed. Okay, very good. But I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
All right. As the previous Deputy Attorney General said, my role here is to assist the board and Your Honor in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. I am here to ensure that the panel has all the information it needs to reach a reasoned decision. And so with that explanation given, I'd be ready to inventory the documentary evidence for this case.
Very good. Okay, you may proceed.
Okay, I'd like to mark and offer into evidence the petition and related documents. And if it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and mark them separately as 8 exhibits instead of one. I could change to make them all the single exhibit, but if it's all right, I'll mark them separately. The board members and petitioner, I believe, have been provided with a copy of the same set of exhibits. However, there were some late changes, and so I'm going to want to check and make sure about a couple of these exhibits. So the first document is a petition for reduction of penalty or early termination of probation. It's dated August 4th, 2021. And there is a form that takes up 2 pages, and you should also have 3 additional typewritten pages that are attached to it. Do you have 5 pages in this document?
I do, and so you want the 5 pages with the additional 3 type pages to be one exhibit number 1, is that correct?
That's correct, because those 3 additional pages are Mr. Dawson's answers to the questions in the form.
I see.
All right. Document or exhibit number 2 will be the certification of registration history, showing that Mr. Dawson has been a spectacle lens and contact lens dispenser since April 2nd, 2020. Both registrations are on probation. And I would just like to also make sure that your copy of this exhibit, which is 1 page, does show both of those registrations.
Yes, so this would be the most recent uploaded version that's dated August 10th, 2021, correct?
Yes, August 10th, 2021 is what mine shows.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then there are a series of letters. So Exhibit 3 is a letter of reference from Dr. John Vinh, spelled V-I-N-H, of the Acuity, A-C-U-I-T-Y, I Group, dated August 1st, 2021. It indicates that he has known Mr. Dawson for 4 years, and they worked together for 3 years at a retail optical location where Mr. Dawson was the lab manager. Next, which I'd like to mark as Exhibit 4, is a letter of reference from Irel, I-R-E-L, Nunez, N-U-N-E-Z, also of the Acuity I Group. It is undated. She states that she has known Mr. Dawson for 9 months and is his direct supervisor, apparently his current direct supervisor. Next, which I'd like to mark as Exhibit 5, is a letter of reference from Laura Garcia, Executive Director of Lighthouse Healthcare Services, Inc. It's dated August 5th, 2021. Lighthouse is a residential substance abuse and behavioral program for adult men who have been released from prison. Ms. Garcia met Mr. Dawson when he was released from prison in February 2017 and participated in this residential reentry program. She says he later returned to the program to lead Bible study for the participants. The next document, which I'd like to mark as Exhibit 6, is a letter of reference from Linda Dawson, the petitioner, Mr. Dawson's wife. It is dated August 2nd, 2021.
Thank you.
Next, Exhibit 7 is the notice of hearing with a proof of service dated August 6th, 2021.
The notice of hearing, I have the notice of hearing, but not a proof. I don't have a proof of service uploaded. Just I didn't see that uploaded on my end, unless it was uploaded later on.
I think I said that as a sort of a habit, and you're correct. I don't have the proof of service, but I believe that on information and belief that it was properly served.
Okay, thank you.
We do
So
have
that's
Mr. Dawson
exhibit
here.
number 7. Yeah.
All right. And then finally, Exhibit 8 will be the board order adopting the attached administrative law judge, I believe it's called a corrected proposed decision, and also attaching the statement of issues that was filed in August 2019. I want to make sure that your first page does have the order of decision dated March 3rd, 2020, effective April 2nd, 2020.
Effective what date? April.
April 2nd, 2020.
I do not have that first page. I was actually going to ask you what the dates were and if you could upload that. What we got on our end was the corrected PD signed by the ALJ as well as the first amended statement of issues. So we didn't get the adoption of the corrected PD with the date that it was adopted and the effective date. If you could upload that, I can add it to that exhibit. That would be exhibit 8.
Yes. Now I don't want to try people's patience in case I run into some technical difficulty doing that. Would you like to keep the record open at the end of the hearing only for the purpose of me submitting that page?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I send it by email. I'd just like to work that out now, how I should submit it.
I'd like it to be, I think it's best to upload it to SFT, the electronic filing system for OAH. And I can pull it from there. And I can leave the record open for another close of business day, probably Monday. That way, it's the end of the day today, so I don't know if you'll have time to do it before close of business today, if you'd like.
Yes, but thank you for holding it open through Monday.
Is that enough time?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Just make a note really quick. And then I'll just put COB, and I believe that would be 8/30, correct? 2021.
Yes.
And this will be for the first page of the adopted. It's one page, correct?
That's right.
The adopted decision. I guess I'm going to call it the cover page. And I think we're on the same page of what you are turning in. So.
Yes, and it is the typical order of decision, which says, I'll read from it. It says, the attached proposed decision of the administrative law judge is hereby adopted by the Board of Optometry as its decision in the above entitled matter, and it appears to be signed by board member Mark Mordomi.
Okay, thank you very much. So I made a note of that, and as I said, we'll keep the record open until close of business on Monday. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So the other two items that were uploaded to OAH, the electronic filing system, was, and I just want to make sure that they won't be included. It was the certificate of registration history that's dated August 5th. That was incorrect. It wasn't updated. So I'm just going to, you are not marking and moving to admit that. I'm going to go ahead and correct.
That's correct.
Okay. And then there was a duplicate uploaded of the corrected proposed decision, but that's been included already in your exhibit 8.
Yes.
Okay. So I am marking exhibits 1 through 8 as you identified them now. Did you want to move to admit them at this moment in time, or as you? It's up to you.
No, I won't necessarily make reference to all of them, and so I'd just like to go ahead and move them all into evidence unless there's any objection.
Okay. Mr. Dawson, do you have any objections to any of these exhibits that were just marked, any of them being officially admitted into the record? Right now, I've just stamped them, if you will, and they're floating out there. I have to officially move them into the record we call that admitting them. Do you have any objections, Mr. Dawson? And you can unmute your telephone at this time and just let me know if you have any objections.
No, ma'am, no objections.
Okay, so no objections to exhibits 1 through 8 being admitted into the record, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So exhibits 1 through 8 are admitted into the record, Mr. Descartes.
Your Honor, may I
Thank you.
interrupt for a moment? This is Terry Villarreal, the lead enforcement analyst.
Yes.
I wanted to provide you with the correct Office of Administrative Hearing number for the.
You're cutting in and out. Go ahead and try speaking one more time, just a little slower, so hopefully we catch all the words that you're saying. Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to provide you with the correct number for the
Oh,
correct age number for the decision.
great. Go ahead. Thank you.
It is 201905477.
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
I believe she said 20190504777. The problem is on OAH on my end, I don't have that number. I have the 20210802202. Mr. Dakar, what do you have for the Deputy Attorney General's office, Attorney General's office?
Well, I do see the 2019 number, but given that that is the case number from the statement of issues that was filed and heard in 2019, I don't believe that that would be the case number for this petition. Typically, the petition that comes before the board gets a new number, and it probably has the 2021 prefix. So I wouldn't want to create some procedural confusion that this was a continuation of the prior case 201 that starts with 2019, because that case, I believe, it was closed and finally decided by that board order.
Ms. Villarreal, I think what I'll do is after the proceedings today, I will confirm with OAH and I'll have them confirm with the board, and we will make sure that we have the correct OAH case number for this matter, and I will drop a footnote in the decision, the proposed decision, the decision of the board to ensure that we have the right OAH case number for this matter. How does that sound?
That sounds good. This is the number so far that I've been able to locate.
Okay.
I can give you our case number.
Go
I
ahead.
know that specifically for the OAH number.
Okay, go ahead
so
with the case number, please.
It is 420-2018-000-449.
That's what I have. Perfect. And Mr. Jakar, is that what you have as well?
Well, again, that's a 2018 number, and that was the number of the board's enforcement referral to my office for the statement of issues. And
that's right.
So I don't know if the board would have a new number associated with the petition. That would be probably more typical. I'm just not sure.
Okay, we're a colleague of mine and I are continuing to look for it. If we, I may come back on and tell you that we don't have it,
okay.
But we're continuing to look.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Villarreal. Thank you. Thank you. And why don't at the end of the open hearing here, I'll just, if you can, give me an update if you've been able to find any new information for either of those numbers. Okay.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jakar?
Yes, if you please, I would like to provide a summary of the case.
You may proceed. Thank you.
All right. That proposed decision that was adopted by the board provided for granting Mr. Dawson's application for a spectacle lens and contact lens dispenser registrations. But those registrations were immediately revoked, but the revocation stayed pending 3 years of probation. He had filed his applications in June and July of 2018. Those applications were denied by board staff in December 2018 on the basis of prior criminal convictions. So therefore, the case was referred to the Attorney General's office for preparation of a statement of issues. And the statement of issues against Mr. Dawson stated two causes to deny his applications. First, a 1992 conviction for robbery, and second, a 1996 conviction for first-degree murder and robbery. Mr. Dawson's case was heard, his statement of issues case was heard by an administrative law judge in October 2019. A number of witnesses testified on Mr. Dawson's behalf, giving very positive perspectives on his role as a parolee from the Department of Corrections, as an optical worker, and as a Christian. The administrative law judge's proposed decision was to grant the application subject to revocation, with the revocation stayed during 3 years of probation on specified terms and conditions, which appear to be standard terms and conditions for probation. And as I mentioned before, the board adopted that decision effective April 2nd, 2020. So Mr. Dawson has been licensed as a registered contact lens and spectacle lens dispenser for approximately, I guess it would be 16 months. This probationary discipline arose primarily from Mr. Dawson's 1996 conviction for first-degree murder, and it was second-degree robbery. But as I mentioned before, he also had an earlier conviction for robbery in 1992 based upon a 1991 armed robbery against staff at a store on Sepulveda Boulevard in Los Angeles. I'll cover that first just to follow in time order. He was convicted of the crime of being an accessory to that robbery. He was sentenced to 1 year of summary probation with 14 days in jail. And on August 3rd, 1994, after his probation expired or had been completed, his plea was set aside, his plea to the charges, and a plea of not guilty was entered in its place, and his conviction was dismissed. This prior offense is described at pages 5 to 6 of the Statement of Issues, which is part of Exhibit 8, if you wish to look at it. But moving on to the more serious case, the facts of the murder case, on an evening in December 1994, a respondent and a 15-year-old boy, the brother of his girlfriend at the time, were looking for victims to rob in the Los Angeles area. Mr. Dawson had information from his accomplice in the 1991 robbery that the manager at a store in a Beverly Hills strip mall wore a large diamond ring. Mr. Dawson drove to the mall with the boy, the 15-year-old. Mr. Dawson went into the mall and into that particular shop to confirm that the woman was there and that she was wearing the diamond ring. He went back to the car and he gave the boy a handgun and sent him to rob the woman. When the boy went in and committed the robbery, she resisted, the woman resisted, and the boy fatally shot and killed her. He took the diamond ring from her finger and fled to Mr. Dawson's car, and they drove off together. They were both arrested several weeks later, and Mr. Dawson was held in jail until his criminal case was decided. Mr. Dawson did fight his murder case, and he was convicted of murder by a jury verdict in 1996. He was sentenced to 26 years to life with credit for time served in jail. Mr. Dawson was in state prison for 21 years from 1996 until his release on parole in February 2017. And Mr. Dawson apparently will be on parole until next year, 2022. So that would be 5 years of parole. That's stated in the proposed decision. While Mr. Dawson was in prison, he got involved in faith-based self-improvement programs. He reports that through these programs, he was able to acknowledge that grief, resentment, and low self-esteem were the basis for his behavior. He says he also learned not to blame other people for his problems or his behavior. In 1999, he began training in prison in their optical program at the J.R. Donovan prison in San Diego County. And he worked in a prison optical lab there until 2006, when he transferred to another prison. In 2001, Mr. Dawson passed the American Board of Opticianry exam and received his certification. He renewed that certification annually until 2011, when apparently he was unable to because the required courses moved to an online only format, which he couldn't take in prison. Mr. Dawson was granted parole at his first and only parole hearing. His prison file contained recommendations, or rather, not recommendations, rather commendations, written records to his inmate file for good and respectful behavior inside the prison towards both prison staff and inmates. And it was noted that he took efforts to help newly admitted inmates adjust to the difficult environment of prison. After his release from prison in 2017, he passed the ABO exam and the National Contact Lens Examiner's exam. He also became co-pastor at a church that he founded while in prison, and he conducts Bible studies and does community outreach and motivational talks for the benefit of residents in his community. After release, he got a job at Stanton Optical, where he worked as a lab manager in the Oceanside store. In that role, he cut, mounted, and produced eyewear. He also supervised and trained staff and interacted with customers when they had questions that the general frontline staff could not answer. In his petition, Mr. Dawson explains why he believes his petition should be granted, and he covers that in response to question number 14 on the form, and this is all in Exhibit 1. I'll read his answer to question number 14. Well, first, the question says, explain fully why you feel your license should be restored or the disciplinary penalty reduced. And his answer is, first and foremost, I would like to say that I truly appreciate the accountability that goes along with meeting the terms of my probation. However, I believe the disciplinary penalty for my licenses should be reduced because I have shown a great respect for the terms and conditions of my probation, and I have sought to conduct myself in a manner that brings the utmost respect to our profession. And finally, I believe that my work ethic and professionalism demonstrate the ability to perform my duties with sincerity and integrity. My understanding is that Mr. Dawson is in compliance with all the terms of his probation. So he's about 16 months into a 36-month probation term. And I'm prepared to proceed with questions of Mr. Dawson unless he wishes to make an opening statement, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dakar. I would like to give Mr. Dawson an opportunity if he wants to provide an opening statement right now. And also, Mr. Dakar, my question to you procedurally is, as far as an opening statement, if Mr. Dawson also can provide his testimony now, and then we could turn it back over to you for questions from you and the board members as well, and that might procedurally allow him to say everything that he wants to say first.
That sounds appropriate. He has the burden, so I would agree that it would be fine for him to go first.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dawson, are you there? I believe your phone's unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. So at this point in time, you heard Mr. Dakar, and he gave a summary and outline of what happened in the case, in your case, and basically how we got here, where we are here today. And it's your opportunity now to give a presentation make your presentation to the board, essentially. And you can do that via testimony if you'd like. And if you want to start and do that now, I'll go ahead and place you under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead and raise your right hand for me, please. Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give shall be the truth under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California?
I do.
Very good. Thank you. You can put your hand down. And we have a court reporter here. So what I need you to do is please state and spell your first and last name. Go ahead.
Martin, Martin, Dawson, Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. And as I just said, we have the court reporter here during this hearing. So for you and for everyone else, I always ask that you please speak slowly and clearly for the court reporter, so the Madam Court Reporter, she can take an accurate record of what's being said today. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, you may proceed and go ahead and offer your testimony now. And then when you're done giving your testimony, I'll go ahead and allow Mr. Dakar and the board members to ask you any questions that they may have, okay?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Dawson.
First and foremost, I would like to say how very sorry I am for the crime that was committed against Miss Sherry Morgan. That's the woman who she lost her life because of my crime and because of my destructive lifestyle. Sherry, Sherry, Morgan, Morgan. She left behind a husband who loved her. His name is Gordon Giles, Gordangiles. And she also left behind many, many friends and family who loved her. She was literally a pillar in her community who did not deserve to lose her life because of my issues and my inability to deal with the things that happened during my childhood. During my time in prison, I was able to realize that I was created by God not to take life, not to be destructive, not to hurt people, but to help people and be constructive and to show people the same grace and love that had been shown to me. I surrendered my life to Christ Jesus in 1996, and since then I have sought to be the best person I can be. I was blessed to be able to learn optical in prison, and I was blessed to be released from prison and to be able to practice optical, practice opticianry. And if I may, it's amazing to be here because the men and women here actually granted me my licenses on a probationary level. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I know it wasn't an easy decision, so I hope you take some comfort in the fact that I'm doing my best to represent your decision with integrity and with pride. I have one correction for the district attorney. Everything you said is absolutely correct. I lived a terrible life before surrendering my life to Christ Jesus. In 2000, December of 2000, my parole was actually discharged for my community service and excellent behavior while on parole. So I discharged parole literally 4 years early because they wanted me to be on a lot longer. But I've discharged parole. I'm no longer on parole. And as the district attorney said, I do my best to volunteer. I work at a couple of transitional facilities where I mentor the men and in some cases the men and women who are recently released from incarceration. I do my best during these mentoring sessions to steer men and women away from the choices I made. It's my desire in our church, it's my desire as a member of the Pillar of Fire Church to bring positive change to the community of San Diego, the city of San Diego. And on the job, I just love being able to help people. My goal is to help my patients get the best customer and patient experience available. Sometimes it involves buying glasses and contacts, but more than that, it just involves helping them be comfortable with their eyewear and comfortable with the sight we're able to help them receive. I don't have much to say. Again, I am very happy and pleased to be here, and I thank each and every one of you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Can I just clarify, did you say that your parole, you were discharged from parole in 2020? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. In December of 2020.
Okay, December 2020. Thank you. Very good. So now I'm going to turn you over to Mr. Dakar and then the board members for any questions they have for you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Dakar?
Thank you. Mr. Dawson, the statement of issues, or rather the decision on it, said that you were going to be on supervised parole until 2022, and now you've stated that you were released in December 2020. Did you submit any documentation of that release from parole?
Sir, I did not. I truly apologize for that. Honestly, I just didn't even think of it. In December, well, actually at the end of November of 2020, I actually wrote the board and gave them something similar to the paperwork that you received, just requesting that they would consider me for early discharge based on my community service and work with the church and the community, and they granted it.
Okay, who was your, well, let me ask you about parole. When you were still on parole, how often did you check in with an agent?
At the beginning, the agent saw me once a month. At the end, the agent was, I was on the lowest level of parole, so every other month, I checked in with my parole agent.
All right, so you're off of all restrictions now? Your connection to that former sentence in terms of any restrictions on your behavior or your travel have been lifted?
Yes, sir. And I have documentation I can provide. Again, I apologize for not providing it.
Let me ask you about some of your work. Tell us about your responsibilities as a lead consultant and licensed optician at Acuity Eye Group's West College location.
So my responsibilities are they're varied. They're many. So I train opticians. I train opticians in optometry, the basics of learning how to use a lensometer, learning how to fit spectacles and contacts. I also work hand in hand with a number of doctors, and literally we come up with a game plan or a treatment for the patients depending on what their refractive errors are and depending on what their desires are for their eyewear, their contacts, or their sight. So on a daily basis, we have patients that come in specifically to see me, whether it's to buy glasses or contacts, and the other half of my day is spent with the doctors. We're a full-service optical practice, so whether it's someone who's doing a retinal therapy or someone who's doing some type of surgery, some type of specialized contact fitting, I work directly with the doctors to help the patients after their procedures and treatments with the doctors to follow through with the treatment plan that they prescribe for the patients.
Do you have any plans for future growth or promotion, either within Acuity Eye Group or with other employers in this profession?
You know, that's honestly a great question. I've been asked if I would consider being the regional lead for our area, which is, you know, Southern California and San Diego. At this time, I'm honestly really enjoying working with the doctors, working with the patients. I don't feel the desire to be on the management corporate side of optics anymore. I did it at Stanton for 3 years. I continue in continuing education courses. My desire is to get my advanced ABO and NCLE certification. From there, I don't really know. I'd love to be able to write a few articles.
All right. Switching gears to one of your past convictions, the 1992 conviction for robbery. You completed probation and you were fortunate enough to have your conviction expunged in 1994. So with your criminal record then sealed, or rather the conviction expunged, tell us why at that time did you pass up the opportunity at rehabilitation and go on to commit further robberies?
So the truth about rehabilitation is it really is a changing or a transforming of the mind and the heart, the mind and heart attitude and condition. At that time, I hadn't changed my way of thinking, and your thoughts are going to determine your actions one way or another. A person can fake it for a period of time, but if those desires have never changed, if a person has never dealt with the underlying causative factors to his bad behavior, he's not going to change for any lengthy period of time. And at that time, I still hadn't changed my my mindset or my heart attitude. At the root of my being, I still had destructive thinking, and unfortunately, that turned into destructive actions. I hadn't changed at that time.
All right. I think that answer kind of leads into my next question, which is, as someone who in the past has reoffended, why should the board be confident that you won't take advantage of anyone else again for your personal gain? They put you on 3 years probation. Why should they trust you to the extent that they take you off of this 3-year probation that they just decided was appropriate last year?
Mm-hmm. So the 3-year probation, very appropriate. I thank the board for granting that. So my change didn't start in 2017 when I was released from prison. It started in 1997 when I decided I wanted to change my life. As you've spoken briefly just a moment ago, my prison record and conduct was without incident. And that's a big deal in prison. It's truly only God's grace that allowed me to go through 22 years of prison without an offense. And again, that behavior is behavior I'm continuing now. The changing of my heart and mind is something that I walk out each and every day. Each and every day I get the opportunity to show people Christ, show people who I am now as opposed to who I was before. Miss Morgan lost her life, and we talk about making amends, and amends is something that we try to do for those we've hurt or wronged or offended. Well, Miss Morgan isn't here now, so the amends that I can make on her behalf is what we call a living amends. I live this life out each and every day, trying to be the best person I can be, trying to show the board and everyone else who's taken a chance on me that they made the right decision.
Mr. Carr, I think you're muted.
Mr. Dawson, that attitude of a living amend sounds very positive, but as you know, life can be very hard, and challenges and troubles can sometimes come out of nowhere, and we all need resources, people or institutions that we can turn to when we're in moments of crisis. Can you tell us, do you have resources lined up in your life that you can turn to when you are finding troubles in your life?
Absolutely. I have a great support system. The church that I'm a co-pastor at, But not only this church, I speak at other churches and I speak at other institutions, and I help facilitate other groups such as Celebrate Recovery, which is it's like Christian AA. But this group of men and women, this support system, it's just that. These are men and women I can talk to when things are hard, when things don't go the way I would like them to go. And this support system, we are always in a state of recovery. We're always in a state of rehabilitation. And I say that of myself personally. Personally, as you said, things don't always go the way I would like them to go. When we start this meeting, things didn't go the way we would have wanted it to go. But through patience, through perseverance, and through reaching out, I'm able to get the support I need. I trust in God to put the right people in my path, and I trust Him through His Spirit to be the guiding force in my life.
For that very unfortunate 1994 robbery and murder, your accomplice, the 15-year-old boy, was convicted in juvenile court and sentenced to be in custody of the California Youth Authority until age 25. Were the two of you together at your apartment when the police came to make the arrest?
We were.
Okay, and was he living there with you at the time?
Yes, he was. At that time, I exerted a lot of influence on him, and it was a bad influence. He could have done a lot of things in his life through my bad influence. He ended up participating in a murder, and he ended up spending. He was blessed to be able to get out at 21 for good behavior. Since then, he's been working. He's a manager at a major department store, and he's starting his own business where he's doing events. It's a dinner and music type event thing that he's starting in, I believe, Tennessee.
All right. Well, thank you for telling us about that. I did want to find out what became of him because he seems to be another person that was hurt by your past behavior.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I thank God that he's doing so well now.
You gave a written answer as to why you seek to end the probation early. But I'd like to know, are there any particular probation terms that are causing trouble or difficulty for you?
Absolutely not. In the same way that my parole for my criminal conviction wasn't burdensome because I don't seek to do anything outside of the confines of the law, this is honestly me doing my job each and every day. Each and every day we're called to this standard of integrity. We're called to this standard of providing the best and most efficient patient care. So this is something that I seek to do on a daily basis.
Sometimes boards are able to help someone who's on probation, not by releasing them entirely from probation, but by making some sort of adjustment to the terms of their probation. Is this probation of your registrations limiting you in any way professionally?
Thankfully, no. All of my supervisors, as well as the president of Human Resources, they know and knew at the time of my hiring about my conviction as, one of the terms and conditions of my probation. And because of the position I was being recruited for, I felt it was necessary to be forthright during the initial interview process. If you've read the letter from Dr. Venn, I was actually recruited by Dr. Venn to come to Acuity from Stanton. And so because of his desire and faith in my abilities, I wanted to be forthcoming with Acuity and let them know about the probationary status of both of my licenses. So everyone in the company knew at the beginning about my probationary status of my licenses.
How would you benefit from being released from probation early?
Another great question. And this is going to sound contrary to me even being here. I don't see my probation as a detriment, but in the same way that there was an opportunity to request early discharge from parole, I read that there was an opportunity to request early termination or reduction. So the Lord has been moving in my circumstances, and this would just be another praise report.
All right. Let me ask you about the board's perspective to see if you can appreciate their public safety concerns. The board issued the licenses to you last year, but in conformity with the administrative law judge's proposed decision, they put your registrations on probation, and their leading concern in these sort of matters is public safety. Can you tell us what the board's legitimate public safety concern would be? Can you appreciate their perspective on the matter?
Of course. I mean, initially and primarily on paper, I'm a person who's committed the most egregious crime that can be committed. I'm a person who's been in prison for 22 years straight. I'm a person who, prior to that, had offended before. So I'm a person who's reoffended, and then not just reoffended, but aggravated the offense. The initial offense, and not to minimize it, the initial offense was an accessory to a robbery. Well, guess what? The next offense is 100 times worse. So I can truly appreciate the board's perspective, and that's why it's so amazing that this group of men and women saw fit to take a chance on me.
All right, looking at your petition, the good work that you're doing in your profession and outside in the community, it sounds very similar to the presentation that you made that persuaded the board to grant you the licenses. So you've been on probation now for 16 months. Has anything changed in terms of the good work that you're doing in the profession or in the community? Are you doing something more or better now that should persuade the board, oh, you're doing even more than when we heard from you and when we made this decision last year?
Well, the more that we're doing, well, COVID slowed everything down. So during COVID, what we did, we had to go online. So we have online resources now. A lot of people weren't able to come out. A lot of people didn't want to come out. It stopped a lot of programming. So what we were able to do through the Pillar of Fire Church is start online classes, online groups. When I was able to, I was blessed to be able to go back into the Lighthouse. Now, I started going back into the Lighthouse in December of 2020. They weren't open yet. A lot of people were still concerned about the risk of contracting COVID. I was contacted by the director, Ms. Garcia of the Lighthouse, and she said there are men and women here who need to hear from you. There are men and women who need to be able to participate in something as simple as a Bible study. Are you willing to come in? And I told her I was. We go to the San Diego Rescue Mission once a month, and we provide services for the men and women there. Again, we're in a time where people aren't really willing to go out and participate in that type of activity at that type of facility because of the risk of contracting COVID or something else. But I've been given too much not to be able to give back. So what I've done before, I'm just increasing it. And wherever I have the opportunity, whenever I'm asked, I go.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Your Honor, those are all the questions I have at this time for Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Picard. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to the board members. If you have any questions for Mr. Dawson, now is your opportunity to ask them. Do any board members have any questions?
Dave Turetsky, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Kretsky. Thank you.
Mr. Dawson, your story is extremely compelling. You are eloquent. You are inspiring. You're quite an impressive individual. And I'm not sure how I even go about asking this, because it really doesn't pertain exactly to what you're doing here today. But how do we go about contacting you for you to share your stories with others who could benefit from your experience and your gained knowledge over these years?
Can I give you a number or email address?
That's what I don't know how I go about getting that, and I don't know if it's even appropriate to ask for it in this setting. So maybe Your Honor or Shara, maybe you could give me some idea.
If I may, if you could just make all of my contact information available. And again, I'm willing to speak at any type of event, any type of forum where my story can help others. I'm more than willing.
Okay, as long as you say that's okay, I can work with your your enforcement person watching your probation, and if necessary, she can contact you and you can contact me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turetsky. Any other board members have any other questions? I don't think there are any more questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Dakar. Mr. Dakar, do you have any other questions?
Your Honor, if I
go
may
ahead.
be able to interject, this is Terry Villarreal again. I found the only other Office of Administrative Hearing number that we could find.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, it is 2021-08-0202.
That's the one I have. I think that's the right one. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And you're the enforcement officer, correct?
I'm the lead enforcement analyst, yes, for the board. And the probation monitor.
For Mr. Dawson?
For all probationers.
Oh, okay. So let me just give me a moment here. So you're the lead enforcement officer, correct?
Analyst.
I'm sorry, analyst.
Correct.
And you are the probation monitor for all the licensees or registrants.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information with the OAH number.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay. Very good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I don't think there's any other questions from any of the board members, and I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Dakar.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm ready to provide closing remarks.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I think, let's see, Mr. Dawson's the petitioner, so he probably should go first. Then you next, and I'll offer him a chance for rebuttal. How does that sound?
That sounds agreeable.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Dawson, are you there?
I am here.
Okay.
So, yes.
Go ahead. This is your opportunity to give a closing statement. Go ahead.
Not a closing statement, a whole bunch of thank yous. I just want to say thank you again. You men and women granted me my licenses, and I truly appreciate you. Ms. Villarreal, thank you for processing this so quickly. When I asked you about this, you made this happen almost immediately. So I appreciate your effort and your time, Your Honor, and the district attorney. Thank you guys, okay? I appreciate you guys.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dakar? Closing.
Thank you. Protection of the public is the board's highest priority. And significantly, Mr. Dawson does have the burden to demonstrate that he's rehabilitated and should be released from the remainder of his probation term. There is some relevant legal authority which I'd like the board to consider. And this is the California Supreme Court of In re Gossage. Just for the record, I'll explain that's a 2000 case, and the citation is 23 Cal 4th 1080. And what the California Supreme Court held in Gossage is that the passage of time while someone is in custody or on parole is given little weight for purposes of evaluating whether the person is rehabilitated. And I quote from the case, since persons under the direct supervision of correctional authorities are required to behave in exemplary fashion, little weight is generally placed on that fact. The applicant did not commit additional crimes or continue addictive behavior while in prison or while on probation or parole, unquote. And that's from page 1099 of the opinion. So Gossage also holds that the petitioner's burden of demonstrating rehabilitation is high when the crime at issue is an intentional criminal homicide. And that is at page 1105 of the opinion. However, there would be room given on this record to regard that Mr. Dawson not only followed the rules, but went above and beyond in terms of leadership, volunteering, and doing more than just adhering to the letter of the law. He's looked to give back, share his past negative experiences in a way that could help others turn their lives around. Mr. Dawson is off parole for less than a year now. Unfortunately, you don't have the written confirmation of that, which would be very good to have. So that's sort of in your discretion as to how you weigh his testimony, but he has said that he's been released from parole. I don't have any record to contradict that. So he has better part of a year then, if you credit him with that release from parole, of having continued his good behavior. And in fact, for the last 4.5 years since he was released from prison, he exhibits good behavior in all walks of life. But you have to consider that that was also true when his case came before you for a decision last year. The showing of rehabilitation is strong, but it also was last year. The only two things that I would say that have changed have been if the release from parole, if you credit his testimony that he's been released from parole, and then the fact that he has advanced his career. Dr. Vin, as he said, recruited him to come over to Acuity Eye Group, which shows success within the profession, that he's valued and in fact is in demand within the profession because of his good work. Kind of running against the strength of his petition is the fact that he has not identified a clear reason why he needs to or wants to reduce his probation period. The absence of a known benefit or purpose does make the petition less compelling because there doesn't appear to be any disadvantage to his continuing to serve the remaining 20 months of his probation period. He's not pointing to anything that is impairing him professionally, so there wouldn't be any harm to him apparently from continuing to be on probation. It appears that he wishes to get off probation for his personal satisfaction, which is not a trivial matter given all that he has done. He has completed a 22-year prison term. He's completed parole, as he says, and he's been on probation and he's complied with the terms of probation so far. So it's understandable that he'd like to put this behind him to reinforce the fact to himself that he is on a positive path and that he's seen results from his efforts. On the evidence before you, it appears that Mr. Dawson's previous felony offenses back in the 1990s are the only reason to fear that he is any danger to the public. However, those offenses were committed when he was an adult at the ages of, I believe, 22 and 25, and are very serious, so they still do raise cause for concern. That's why he was on criminal parole, and that is why this board decided to have him on licensed probation. However, Mr. Dawson is a fully functioning member of the community and the optical profession. He appears to be a role model at work from the reference letters that he received. And also he's a role model through his ministry, which has been aimed at those in the community who really need help, including the homeless and other parolees. I have a little bit of perspective on this matter myself. For about 15 years, I was involved in a mentoring program for parolees that matched attorneys with parolees, mentorship program. And an observation that I made was that the parolees themselves who chose to come back and volunteer and speak to other parolees being released and to give them some guidance, share their perspective and personal history, that was very powerful and impactful, and really, I think it has a great benefit to the public, not just to those individuals, but to their families, and in terms of reducing recidivism, helping the public, helping the entire public. So the work that volunteering that he's doing and the ministry that he's conducting is it sounds very positive. I don't have anything else to add. I'm not going to recommend for or against granting this petition, except to say that I believe Your Honor and all of you on the board are fully informed about this case, and you stand in a very good position to make a reasoned decision about it. Thank you very much for hearing my presentation and for hanging on this long. I'm sorry about the earlier technical difficulties.
Thank you, Mr. Tatar. Question for you. Can you please clarify the beginning and end date of Mr. Dawson's probationary period for the board?
I'm sorry, I had a little beeping. I didn't hear you.
It's okay. Could you please clarify? Thank you for your closing remarks. Can you please clarify the period of the board, period of probation with the board, the beginning and end, the schedules? I have, I don't know if this is correct, April 2nd, 2020, the first date for beginning of probation, 3 years. And I'm just assuming, I don't see it anywhere that it would be April 2nd, 2023.
Yes, that's correct. It would expire on April 2nd, 2023.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Okay. And Mr. Dawson, this is your opportunity if you would like, and you don't have to, but if you have an option, if you'd like to give a final closing remark. Mr. Dakar gave one right now.
No, just another thank you to everyone, and to our district attorney, Mr. Dakar. Thank you for all the words you said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. With that said, let's see. I believe it's time for us for the closing of this open hearing portion, unless the board or Mr. Dakar, unless there's anything else that any other housekeeping that you would like to bring up.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Okay. With that said, the open hearing is now closed, and I will turn it over to the board, I believe, because we have to go to closed session for the two matters, the two petitions. Okay. And Mr. Dawson, at this point in time, you are excused, correct? I want to make sure with the board it's okay for me to excuse Mr. Dawson at this point.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
And I'll go as well, too, I believe, because you're going into closed session.
Yes, yes. And then I just need to ask, go ahead, Mr. Dakar. Yes, we're off the record. And for Madam Court Reporter, Ms. Lindsay, if you'd like to give me the page numbers, estimated page numbers, and time of the hearing ended, please.
I have 51 pages, and I have us finishing at 4:56.
Thank you very much. I'll be sure to fill out the court reporter form and send it over to everyone who needs to get it.
Okay, thank you. Everybody have a nice weekend.
Okay, thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Thank you.
All right, Madam President, that means the floor is back to you. We had discussed taking up item 8 here in open session before moving to closed session. It has been a long day, so want to get the temperature of board members to see if that's still how you would like to proceed.
What does everybody think? I'll open it up to everybody.
Well, we have 2 ALJs waiting for us, so why don't we go into closed session and then go back into, why don't we go into closed session, get that matter dealt with, and then we'll go back into open session to deal with the CLE, or the continuing education regulation.
I want to make sure that that works for council. I'm not sure that that's our best option. It might be to set that item number 8 for another agenda. We are agendized now to, to adjourn from closed session. And so I want to make sure that we aren't affecting in any way the ability.
Shara.
Yes,
So
Rebecca, thank you very much.
Sure, technically speaking, I think you're fine either way. I think the caveat there is that in either situation, unfortunately, we're making folks wait. So either by going back to your open session item, obviously, we're putting the ALJs at an inconvenience. By going into closed session now, we're putting your reg counsel and various staff members at an inconvenience. So either way, someone's waiting, and either way, you can feasibly adjourn. There's plenty of notice on the agenda for you to adjourn after either way you go. Currently, the agenda is set to adjourn from closed session. So in terms of clarity and consistency with the agenda, you might want to wrap up all of your open session items first.
Okay. If the ALJs would give us, what do we think we need? 5 minutes. I don't know how much longer we need to talk about item number 8. What do you
5
guys-
minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to interject because I've been on the PEC for the last 6 years. I think with this new form that's been submitted, it would be extremely helpful for all PEC meetings. There's always been a little bit of controversy or confusion with courses that have been submitted, and the current new form that we're looking at would definitely clarify categories, so it would make it easier for staff when the CE courses are being submitted. And then the other large concern before I took myself off the PEC was that with all these new virtual or live virtual CEs, that we weren't sure how some of the courses were monitoring the attendance, and with this new form that also is addressing that issue. So for me, the new form, even though the categories don't match up exactly with COPE, they still pinpoint the different categories that are required for CE for both TPA and glaucoma certified optometrists. So that's my 2 bits. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, this is Jeff Garcia. So I don't mean to belabor the point, and ultimately I'm fine with whatever the group decides. But just for clarification, this all happened before I came onto the PEC committee, so this is all kind of new to me. But I still feel that if our ultimate goal is to align with COPE, then that we're actually going in the other direction by creating these subcategories by name, specifically identifying elder abuse and child abuse. You know, I can think of a whole lot of other categories that would be just as helpful or even more helpful, such as recognizing opioid abuse. I think that would be helpful. I think recognizing human trafficking. There could be a whole lot of different courses that we could classify under public health going forward, because there may be other mandates in the future that we have other courses available that are similar but different. And then we can end up with this whole laundry list of classes. I would like to see it just be put under public health, and we can still educate the educators that were looking for courses within those specific areas, and maybe even other areas that I mentioned. So it's not that I'm opposed to the classes at all. I think they're great, but I don't think it makes sense to make those two categories as standalone.
I certainly hear you, Dr. Garcia. Thank you so much for clarifying your position on that. I too, think that there is a lot to be done within ethics education and social health, public health education. And the issues that you mentioned are, I think, some of the most important, but not the only, that at some this board might want to address, just as we also took a look at, or we heard, and we will be taking a look at within the strategic plan, diversity and equity issues. So I can see how we might maybe want to, on that form, provide this as ethics education or as public health education. And I think that that could be incorporated easily with the changes that staff has suggested here in your materials today.
I have a question procedurally. Does the board vote to approve the form, or can we just we do vote to approve the form? And is that part of the regulatory package that has to go up?
And that package has to go out today?
It doesn't need to go out today. We as staff that would like to prioritize it. We know that these are issues that have continued to come up again and again in the PEC meetings. And so we'd like to be able to begin submitting the package. If we did not resolve this today, then we would need to bring it back in November and then be able to submit the package. So we're just hoping to get October. So we're just hoping to get a jump on what we know is a long rulemaking process.
Can we do it via email vote? Like if we made some modifications to it, could it then be emailed to us and then we can all say yay or nay via email?
I want to make sure that we've promoted Danny Rogers, who is our regulations counsel. Danny, are you available with us on the line?
As we're waiting for Danny to come aboard, just to.
Hi there. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great.
I'll let her talk first.
Well, I would defer to Ms. Bond on instructing you on how to do just generally a motion. I'm not sure that doing an email vote would withstand legal scrutiny, but I want to defer to her on answering that question.
That's correct. I believe you would, if you're voting, you're going to want to take public comment on any board action today. So that would include action on this item.
So, to perhaps move things along, we could vote one of two ways, or there are two options. One is to delay the regulatory package so we can resolve the issue about the form, or we can vote to proceed and move the regulatory package forward. And that's, it's up to the board. We can just vote and decide one way or another. I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, but
if I could have our moderator advance the slides one more.
I'll just point out that this change to the whole CE thing. This has been going on for a while. So would anybody like to make a motion?
So let me make a comment first. So I have foundational concerns that we keep trying to search for perfection, and it's opposed to moving forward with the good, important things that we need to make changes on with the CE regulations. And I don't have strong opposition to the suggested changes, but I also don't think that it's been vetted, and I won't be able to support changes and run the risk of moving forward something that we haven't had a chance to really discuss. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Is Dr. Garcia. So I recognize the concerns, but I don't think the changes that I'm suggesting are very substantial. I'm not saying that we don't promote offering the courses that are listed. I'm just saying we reclassify them under a common classification that's recognized by COPE that they fit nicely under. And again, that would either be ethics or public health. And it just allows us to move forward and add more courses under those rather than adding a longer laundry list of similar classes.
So I think that what we would do here is if we would entertain an amendment to the text that you see on your screen, we would slip C to D, and in C we could create the category of ethical or public education. And that, I think, ties back still to the elder abuse and child abuse authority we have within statute. And then gives us an opportunity to, at other times, look at other issues that could be added to the list or could be added by a regulation. So I think what Dr. Garcia is saying is that we would simply add a new bullet to, we would add a new letter to 1536. Where are we? Going back up, the letter that we're in. Letter and then number 3. Here we would shift any categories as required by section 3059 E through H of the Business and Professions Code. That would now be enumerated, that's a number. That would be listed as D, and C would become ethical or public education. I think with that simple amendment to the language, I think we're able to address the concern that Dr. Garcia is raising.
This is Sid. What does COPE say? What are the COPE words? Are the COPE words ethics, public health? I've now heard ethical, and I heard one more. If we could hear what COPE says, because it may be A, B, C, D, and then any categories becomes E.
Sure, this is Natalia. I can answer those questions. Ethics and jurisprudence is what COPE considers the child abuse, elderly abuse section. Public health is under their, I'm scrolling back up, is under their clinical optometry section. So COPE considers those two things very different. They only have 5 large categories, and then they have the small subcategories.
So that I'm hearing that this probably then would be more aligned with the ethics
and jurisprudence, yes.
Education?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. I actually did call on that, and I asked the staffer there where would those classes fall under, and she did say it would fall under the ethics classification.
So since we already have ethics listed on the form, we could just remove the elder abuse and child abuse exceptions and just adjust what is currently, I think.
Well, wait, Nat, just one second. So I don't think we actually need to make changes to I suppose we could make changes to the form. I think the biggest part is that we, within the text of the regulation, want to include ethics and jurisprudence education as another bullet. That gives us the opportunity to include other pandemics, quite honestly, within, referring to human trafficking, within that subcategory or that large category of allowable categories.
I guess what I'd like to suggest is, I don't know what all the COPE categories are. If we were to align to COPE, at the same time, keep the intent of what the PEC is trying to achieve by calling out specific examples. Dr. Wong, can you advise us again what PEC is recommending?
So PEC in the past has just had difficulty when providers submit CE. They often fail to submit what category. So this form was supposed to make it easier. So as opposed to having each provider write it out, it's much easier to just check a box. So at this point, it was just to make the form easier for everyone. With COPE coming out with their new categories, and I'm trying to get to it, I can't get it to my email, but it was submitted when Arbo gave us the packet today. It's under OE tracker, and it has all the different categories that they've now added. So they have a couple of new categories.
So this is also a consideration that staff has taken under, and actually that the board and PEC has reviewed before. I'm not completely sure how often COPE revises their full 20-item list. So what our intention here is to align with COPE, but not require that we revise our regulations or look for statute change each time that COPE makes a change. So what we're hoping to do, I think we're getting at that really clearly, is that ethical and jurisprudence category here within the regulatory text, and then the ability for our group, I think, to continue our board just as in line with what the board has said in its strategic plan to look at diversity and equity. That gives us an opportunity to take a look at other issues that might fall within ethics and jurisprudence, or ethics and what is stated in our law as categories that should be addressed.
I mean, in general, all of these categories are going to fall under general optometry for our CE, because by law, there's only there's glaucoma, there's therapeutics, there's ocular disease that TPA certified optometrists and glaucoma optometrists have to fulfill. But these subcategories, these are just the additional categories that fall under general optometry CE. So,
So Shara, if you tell me the new category that will become either the new C or the D, I will make a motion that we approve the package with that additional language.
Excellent. Nat, can you be sure that I'm using the correct language from COPE so that D, the current C would become point D, and C would now list which category? Nat?
I believe I'm remembering correctly. Hang on.
I make a motion to amend the regulatory language to include a new C, ethics and jurisprudence. And then the current C becomes D. And otherwise the rest of the remaining regulatory package be approved.
I second that motion.
all right. Madam Secretary, can you?
President Wong, if I can just really quickly, if I can have our moderator advance the screen to the slide with the motion, because this is a regulatory package. Thank you very much. We want to make sure that we use the appropriate language. So we're also hearing from Red Council. So I think what we want to do here, and moderator Tricia, are you able to edit this slide in real time?
That is a good question. I think I can, but I think I just have to share it in a different way. Right now, I have it shared as a file. I think if I just open it and then share it on my screen, I can do that. Hold on.
Well, as she's doing it, I hope our regulatory council is putting together the language.
I've already done that, actually. I provided that to Shara to provide to you.
Okay,
would
great.
you like, in the interest of time, would you like to just read it out verbally, and then a board member can say so moved, and then we could go from there?
That sounds great. Give me just one moment.
So if you'd like me to do that for you, just let me know. Thank you.
Just want to be sure that we incorporate
Whomever
that. So
has access first.
oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca.
I was just suggesting that whomever has access
Yes.
first.
So the motion would be, I move to approve proposed changes to Title 16, Section 1536, including the amendment discussed today, Form CE01, incorporated by reference into the section as presented and discussed here, and delegate authority to the executive officer to make non-substantive changes to the text and form CE-01 prior to submission to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review, and if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to set the matter for hearing if requested.
I so move.
I so second.
Excellent. I don't know how much public we have left, but if we could quickly open for public comment and then take the vote.
Thank you. This is the moderator, and I have opened up the Q&A. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type comment, or I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Submit it to all panelists. We are displaying instructions as well. And if you do not see the Q&A panel, you can click on the question mark within a square in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We'll give you a moment. All right, this is a moderator. I see no requests for public comment. Madam President, shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
And if Ms. Linden, if you could do a roll call for a vote.
Yes. Okay. Dr. Wong,
I vote aye.
Mr. Mordomi,
Aye.
Ms. Brandwein,
Aye.
Dr. Garcia,
Aye.
Dr. Kawaguchi,
Nay.
Ms. Linden, aye. Dr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Ms. Sims is absent, and Dr. Turetsky.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. I think at this point now, we will go to closed session.
We need to open for public comment, but if board members do have future agenda items they'd like to give to staff now, this would be the time.
Thank you. No one has any future agenda items? Well, then let's go ahead and go on to item number 11, because we've done item number 10. And we will be moving on now to closed session, and we will adjourn from closed session.
Thank you, members, ALJs, and all of our participants today. It's been a long day, but I think the board has done some great work, and we're ready to take that and do staff's part to move it forward, to continue to move our regulations and our processes toward what the board is hoping to achieve. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time.